Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description. Koby's Choice by Sword of the Gods, Axe Hand. Morgan single-handedly shattered Koby's faith in the Marines, breaking his dreams. If a pirate is the first one to ever show you kindness in a world run by a corrupt justice, who do you follow? Well, the future king of the pirates, of course. I don't own anything. Adios.
The air around Fuchsia village was calm, the windmills for which the village got its name turning slowly in the breeze. The streets were not packed, but they still contained a hustle and bustle found in many small towns across the world. The sun dipped low, casting its light across the sky in such a way as to paint it with streaks of reds, yellows, and oranges. The clouds tinged pink as they drifted to far-off places. The grass was a healthy green, vibrant against the well-trod brown roads that led hither and yon. Among the rest of the setting and settlement, everything else was its own, appropriate color, shade, and hue. Altogether, a picturesque scene. The patrons of a certain bar ambled home as they finished their evening revelry, a buzz burning through their nerves and smiles stretching their faces. The owner of the bar, one certain green-haired woman, calmly swept the floor in preparation for business the next day. She hummed to herself, remembering times before when her establishment had been filled with the rowdy laughter of friendly pirates. The thought brought her short, her head turning until she spied her pride, the wanted poster that hung behind the bar of a smiling teen with a straw hat in its pair containing a smile woman she had never met. A pounding at the door shattered the calm serenity of the fading evening, the bang 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 echoing through the bar's interiors. "Makino!" The voice of an old man called between the noise. "Makino, are you in there in Terabang?" "I'm coming," the woman called, setting her broom aside and making her way across the floor. She turned the deadbolt, opening the door. A short, frazzled man with gray hair stumbled across the doorway, barely catching himself to avoid falling. "Mayor Whoopslap, why are you being so loud? And after close, no less. You need to see this, Makino. I don't know how you did it, but I'm blaming you for this." "What are you talking about, Mayor?" The man raised his hand, waving a thin newspaper crumpled in his grip. That little brat you babied all these years and never dissuaded from becoming a pirate is besmirching the name of our great village again. And he's managing to follow in your footsteps while he does it, even from halfway around the world." "Oh, is this paper about Luffy?" A smile spread over her face, the woman snatching the paper out of Whoopslap's hand. "It's been too long since we've heard anything about his exploits, though I suppose it doesn't help that we're so far out of the way. I was getting worried." "Don't celebrate," the mayor frowned. "That boy isn't living the life of any good, self-respecting person. He's out there killing and pillaging and stealing and any manner of other horrible things." "Pish posh," Makino waved off. "Luffy's not like that, you should know better." "He should know better," Whoopslap argued. "And yet he went off and became a pirate, so I can't say I trust anything that boy's ever done." "I wonder what he could have done to get you in such a twist," Makino giggled, her musical laugh dancing through the air. "Now be quiet while I look this over, unless you want to be the one calming my baby down after waking from their nap." "No, I'd rather not," Whoopslap muttered, his eye darting to the wall that hid Makino's living arrangements. The same living arrangements that were no longer hers alone. "Then hush." Makino flicked the paper, straightening it out. It was dated to several days before, but such was not uncommon for news just reaching their little town. Her eyes skimmed the headline, widening as she slowly comprehended what she was reading. "What?" "Exactly," Whoopslap nodded. Yes, then that girl. Seems like it. I can't believe it." Makino leaned against the bar, her eyes darting as she read the article. "It feels like just yesterday Luffy was a little kid running around screaming at Shanks that he was going to be a great pirate. Believe it or not, that was more than a decade ago," Makino, the mayor of the town, said. "And you're still a grumpy old man." "I am not grumpy." "But you aren't denying being old," the bartender chuckled. She opened the paper, her eyes falling on the yellowed poster held within. "Oh Goda, he's adorable." "He looks like a little hellion," Whoopslap muttered. "Only relief I get is that he's not here to do something like stealing my cane or raising a ruckus in the market." "Now, Whoopslap," Makino admonished. "Luffy and his brothers only did that once." She looked back at the poster, her gaze moving over the name. "Oh. What?" Makino didn't respond, leaning more weight on the bar as she slid onto a stool. "Makino, Mayor, did you read this?" I couldn't stomach it," the old man waved off. "Why?" "Luffy, he named his kid Ace." A tear rolled down the woman's cheek as she studied the picture. "Oh, Luffy. I'm so happy for you." Whoopslap sighed, a wan smile coming to his face as Makino continued to study the photo. "Let's hope that kid isn't as much trouble as Luffy was." Whoopslap stopped. "Actually, no, I hope the kid is a lot of trouble. Luffy deserves a taste of his own medicine for all the trouble he gave us." Oh, I'm sure they're on some fantastical adventure like the ones Shanks would tell when he and his crew were here.
And I'll tell you again, Makino, that those tales they told are simply impossible. Devil fruits might be real, but islands in the sky. Water that rises out of the ocean like serpents. Men that can cut ships in half with a butter knife. Such things do not exist.
Well, I believe in them, Makino huffed. Oh, I can't wait to see Dayton's face when she learns about this. Now get me that step stool over there. I need to pin this poster up. The constant, echoing buzz of clanking, groaning, and moving machinery was all that filled the trash room below the laboratory of Punk Hazard. The lighting here was subpar at the best of times, but more often than not were the rolling mounds of trash covered in darkness. The rank stench of rotting material floated through the air, a nasty undercurrent where the only air that could be called fresh carried with it another load of garbage to add to the mountains. Z's. And atop one of these mountains lay the sleeping form of Monkey D. Luffy, the pirate captain spread out over the refuse like one might nap on a hillside after a filling picnic. His striped coat bore stains of questionable origins, but the smells and sensations of the trash room did nothing to reduce the man's salivation as he snored away, his mind's eye dreaming of an endless buffet of dragon meat and dragon omelets. "Come here, Durgan," the sleeping pirate muttered, his hands reaching upward. "I just want a bite. Just one. Gimme." He shifted, the pile beneath him giving way in such a manner as to send him rolling to the floor. The cold stone did not manage to awaken him, but the shifting trash succeeded where the floor failed, the falling mountain eliciting a gasp as it landed on the man. "Hey!" Luffy yelled, his exclamation garbled beneath the refuse. "The hell? I'm not—" He bust upward, flinging garbage hither and yon. "A piece of trash. Piece of trash, trash, trash," his voice echoed off the walls. Luffy cast his gaze around, finding nothing but darkness and garbage. It took a minute for his eyes to adjust to the lighting, but all he found were mountains of machine parts and food waste. He frowned, his eyebrows knitting together as he tried to remember where he was and why he was here, counting such things on his fingers. "Let's see, we explored the burning island, we crossed the lake, we met the Crocodile, Zoro got lost again, we met the boss guy and— hey! That boss guy drugged us. Coby, Robin, Mary, Usopp, any of you here in Terabang?" Here, Luffy blinked, recognizing the voice as his own. He shrugged. "Well, they're tough and they'll be fine. Hello in Terabang, anyone here in Terabang?" Something clattered in the distance, Luffy's head whipping around to zero in on the direction, his adventure senses tingling. Or maybe that was just boredom. He followed the sound, June's closest mountain of machine parts. Even from the new vantage point, mountains and rounded gray walls were all he could see. There were no doors anywhere, the only openings being circular holes along the ceiling or what appeared to be thick, sliding doors set high along the walls. Hanging from the ceiling were half a dozen cranes of different sizes set into a crisscrossing network of lines between the trash chutes. Luffy was somewhere near one of the sides, but terminology like north or south were smart things only Nami understood and he nodded along to, even at the best of times. As it was now with no contact to the outside, the pirate didn't have a chance of finding his directions. Well, nothing to do but explore, Luffy laughed to himself, taking a step forward to slide down the mountain. He cast his eyes around to see all there was to see, his mind trying and failing to figure out what the scrap machines had done and what happened to them to make them wind up here. He walked for several minutes, his boredom growing with each. He tried dancing, singing songs, and even arguing with himself. "No, meat. It doesn't matter." Then Sanji said meat isn't a food group, but it was only after reuniting with his crew and family did Luffy realize how truly he hated being alone. Popping the joints in his neck and loosening his arms, Luffy prepared to escape. He stopped. Something was watching him. "Hello?" He tried again, turning his head further than any normal person could in an attempt to get a glimpse of whoever or whatever had its eye on him. "I know you're there, come out." Luffy's discerning eye finally caught onto something. 2 lines of brown sticking out over a pile of metal. Finding this odd, as any sane person would even though Luffy's sanity was questionable, the pirate captain launched his stretchy arm forward, taking hold of one of the lines. It turned out to be a horn, the retracting of Luffy's arm pulling with it a creature that was long and pink. Wah! The creature hit the floor, rolling in over itself like a scaly coil of rope. Luffy frowned, trying to identify what it was. The thing's skin was covered in pink scales, 4 clawed appendages confirming it was not a snake. But it must be some kind of lizard. Fringes and flares lined its face and body with accents of yellow, such including 2 barbels that looked like a funny Fu Manchu. The end of its tail had a yellow accent shaped like fire and the brown horns each boasted 2 rounded points. That hurt. The creature yelled, surging upward to get in Luffy's face. "What kind of person drags others around by their horns in Terabang? What manner of demon are you?" "I'm not a demon." Luffy laughed, wholly unconcerned that this creature could talk. "I'm a pirate." "You look nothing like a pirate. Pirates are 15 feet tall with horns and big beards and they break everything and kill people slowly after lying to them. You look like a normal human." He paused. "Ah, why are you salivating?" He was answered with a growl from the older being's stomach. The creature fled backward, hiding himself behind a particularly large piece of discarded metal. "I am not food. Not for you, not for that horrid master, and not for any normal person, either. I'm not normal, though." Luffy reached upward, hooking his fingers into the sides of his mouth and pulling. This, as it always had, stretched his mouth beyond normal limitations. "I'm a rubber man." "Rubber man?" the pink creature echoed, recoiling from the sight. "I have never heard of such a yokai, much less encountered one before. Were you also created by that foul fiend with delusions of deityship over the waking world?" "I didn't understand any of that, but you're weirder than I am. I mean, you're a talking eel." "I am not an eel and that horrible man never got his hands on me." "Whoa there, slow down," Luffy urged, his voice falling into the same pattern he'd use on Ace periodically. "Let's start from the beginning. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, and I'm probably not going to eat you." The creature eyed him warily, slowly coming out from behind the metal. "Momonosuke." "Okay Momonosuke. What are you doing way down here?" "I got drugged by some weird gas monster and separated from my friends." "My story is a little more complicated than yours, Mr. Luffy. See, I never wanted to be on this island in the first place. My father and I were on an island together and I got swept up with a group of children. These men insisted we were sick and that we needed to be taken to a hospital to be cured. I did not want to go with them but was given no choice. I refused to eat or drink anything they had to offer and, eventually, I escaped from the room. While wandering, hungry, I stumbled across a fruit in a glass container. My hunger got the better of me and I stole it, but it tasted nasty. When some of the guards found me, I panicked and somehow changed into this form. I thought I'd escaped by hiding in a trash can, but they dumped me down here. I have been stuck here in this form for the last many hours. Days, possibly." He looked up from his reminiscing, trying to be certain he did not leave out any important details, only to find the rubber man digging wax from his ear. "Were you not listening to me, Interrobang?" "Nah, I think I got most of it." Luffy waved off. "So, you got down here after eating a devil fruit, right? Like, an eel fruit or something?" "I'm not an eel." The not an eel pulled himself up to his full height, reaching Luffy's chin while pulling up a face that Luffy guessed was supposed to be proud. "I am Momonosuke, heir of the great Kozuki clan." "Never heard of you." Luffy finished picking his ear, flicking the wax away. Maybe Coby or Robin have. They're the smart ones that know the names of all the famous people. Anyway, if you don't want to be an eel, why don't you just change back?" "I can change back? How?" "I don't know," the pirate shrugged, leaning against a flat piece of metal. "You ate a weird fruit and transformed, so that was probably a zone devil fruit. I'm a paramecia, so I don't do the whole turning into an animal thing. But Coby, Chopper, or Kaku should be able to help you once we find them. All of them are zones." "You have friends that can also transform?" "Yup, Coby's a dinosaur, Chopper's a reindeer, and Kaku's a giraffe." "So you really think I can regain my human form?" "Oh, yeah. No question." Luffy nodded with a smile, the tension in Momonosuke's body unwinding. "See, the thing about zone fruits is they normally give you 3 body things. Human, animal, and something in between a lot of people call hybrid. All the zones I know call them different things, though. Chopper calls his points, Coby calls his modes, and Kaku, I don't actually know what he calls his. Doesn't matter. Point is, zones can do a lot of weird things with their bodies, and that's coming from me when I'm made of rubber. Then I can change," Momonosuke breathed. "That is a relief. Anyway, Momonosuke. Do you know how to get out of here? I don't remember getting here in the first place. I was asleep or something. If I knew, I wouldn't still be here." I apologize for my outburst, but that was a foolish question. If I could escape on my own, I would have by now." "Well, let's work together to find a way out," Luffy suggested. "Coby and Nami say 2 heads are better than 1. I don't really know what that means, but this seems like a time when they'd say that." "Mommy, this is boring." Nami closed her eyes, taking a deep breath in an attempt to calm her growing anger. She was currently still in the annoyance stage, but not for lack of unconscious trying on the part of her son. He was sat upon her shoulders, his hands fisting her hair like he would while riding Luffy's shoulders in a way the young mother did not appreciate. His head had been on a swivel from the moment Jin revealed his disregard of previous orders, but the novelty of the inside of the lab quickly lost its luster after the third silent, unknown machine. Maybe if said machinery had been different, but the lab's first floor was surprisingly barren and quiet. There were no walls save the rounded exterior, but all the machinery made up for such by creating a sort of maze of metal and wire. Not every part of an adventure is fighting or running, Ace. Remember, we're exploring right now. But it's boring, the boy repeated. Real exploring has cool animals and big plants and holes and things. Where's the fun stuff? Where's the bad guys? I don't know, Ace, Nami said, thankful that her baby could not see the way her eye was twitching. That's why we're looking. Will they come out if we yell? We don't want that, Ace, We want to find them, not the other way around. But Daddy and Uncle Stupid Moss said, Daddy and Uncle Stu, Uncle Zoro are also freakishly strong, so they don't need to think. Nami interrupted as Sanji bit off a laugh. She let out a sigh. Listen, sweetheart. Sanji and Jin are strong enough to do that, including not think, and maybe Kaku is too. But you and I are not. And even with how strong they are, the bad guys could easily beat us if they attack before we know they're there. It would be better if we found them first. But that's boring. It wouldn't be boring if you really knew how dangerous this is, the young mother muttered, but of course she couldn't tell Ace that. He just wasn't old enough to understand the downsides of adventure. Sure, it was probably her fault for glorifying their journey and telling him about all the highlights without mentioning how terrifying they were in the moment, but she hadn't wanted to give him nightmares. Now, perhaps, that would have been for the best. Hindsight is everything. I found a stairwell, Smoker grunted, interrupting the woman's thoughts. She, the other pirates, Kaku, and the samurai turned to the man, his constant cigar smoke forming a path that took off toward their right. It seems to rise to the top floor. Do you have fruit powers, old guy? Ace questioned, causing a vein to pulse on the government man's forehead. I am not old, child, he said, and my name is Marine Commodore, White Hunter, Smoker. I am only 36. Old man Garp says he's not old even though he's really, really old. Smoker paused. You have met retired Vice Admiral Garp? We saw old man Garp on Fishman Island. He's funny, but he doesn't have cool fruit powers like Daddy or Auntie Robin Sensei or Choppy or Uncle Koby or Auntie Grace or Uncle Jin or Auntie Amy or Grandpa Brooke. Do you have cool fruit powers, Mr. Smokey? Smoker turned his eye on the pirates, his frown deepening. He sighed. Yes, child. I possess the powers of the Plume Plume Devil Fruit. I am a smokeman. Is that why your name is Smoker? Ace asked. Did you change your name? Well, no. Did you look for your fruit power because of your name? No, child. Why's your smoke white? Isn't smoke black? There are different kinds. Is your smoke white cause your hair's white? Why's your hair white if you're not old? Child. Ace ducked behind his mother's head, clinging to her hair. Nami felt an instinctive glare come up as her child's little hands quivered. Tashigi laid a hand on the handle of her sword, prompting Jin to run sparks through his cornrows. Smoker closed his eyes, waiting for Tashigi to stand down. My apologies, child, but your questions do not have answers save that is how it is. I did not look for my devil fruit, nor is it connected to my name. One could consider it an ironic joke from Goda himself, but that is the way of the world sometimes. Who's Goda? The boy asked. Goda's author o' fate, young master, Jin supplied, folding his arms into his sleeves. He brought world life with stroke of a pen. He makes each person and tells each story. Sounds like a super big job. Ace blinked. So he made Mr. Smokey? That's right, and Mommy and Daddy, them too. And you and the rest of the crew? Goda made us all, Jin nodded. Wow. Ace's eyes sparkled. Where is he? In world beyond, young master. There's a place past the Grandie line, the toddler gasped. I bet it's even cooler and crazier than here. I want to go there someday. That's not, Jin trailed off, resting his face in a hand. You know, I think we'll have this talk again when you're older, young Master Ace. Finally, Smoker grunted. Can we get moving now? I suppose, Nami replied, letting her glare drop. Tashigi relaxed slightly but kept her hand on the handle of her sword. We just need to follow your smoke to the stairs. Correct. Captain Tashigi, lead the way. Yes, sir. The woman stepped forward, leading the group while remaining on the lookout for any dangerous obstructions that may block their path ahead. Kinemon hand-walked himself over to Jin's side, questioning him about his religious knowledge. I don't get it, Ace said. If the pretty lady's a captain, why is she listening to Mr. Smokey? Daddy's a captain and he only listens to Mommy. Are the pretty lady and Mr. Smokey also married? Not in the slightest, Smoker answered, trying to hold back his visceral response to being called Smokey, even with the honorific of Mr. ahead of it. Usually, a captain is the head of a ship, Tashigi began, her voice softer than Smoker could ever hope to make his. That's why Straw Hat, your father, is called a captain by you pirates. For the Marines, however, captain is just one of many ranks. Commodore Smoker ranks above me and I respect him, so I follow his orders. He's my boss and has been since I joined the Marines as a seaman recruit. That's silly, Ace laughed. No one can be higher than a captain, except a king or a queen. My daddy's gonna go from a captain to a king. That'll make me a prince, cause that's how that works, but captains are above princes. So queens are also above captains? Tashigi inquired with a small smirk at the sight of Kinemon's visible confusion. Yeah, Ace nodded. Queens are over kings, too. That's what Mommy says, cause Daddy'll only listen to Mommy and no one else. If someone doesn't want to listen to Mommy, she'll make him listen to Daddy, so they do what she says anyway. How scary, Smoker commented with a sideways glance. To be able to bring one of the monkey family to heel, Perhaps your bounty should go up. That's a feat no one else has managed to my knowledge. Well, it took plenty of time and work, Nami chuckled as the group rounded a corner, a metal door coming into view. It stood at just over 8 feet tall with a handle like a ship's wheel in the center. The trail of smoker's smoke led through the cracks between the door and the doorframe, showing that it was not airtight. At least, it was not currently if it could be made so. Pardon, Mademoiselle, Sanji offered, stepping ahead of Tashigi. Allow me to check to see if this door is trapped. I would not put it past the lowlifes that live here, and it would pain me if I allowed even a single hair on your head to be damaged. Uncle Pervy Cook's flirting again, Ace stated, the blonde whipping around to stare at him aghast. Jin snorted, devolving into full-blown laughs as Kaku shook his head with an amused smile. He tried to warn Sanji that Zoro would not take his pettiness lying down, after all. What? Tashigi questioned, instinctively reaching for her sword again. She paused. Actually, go ahead. If it is trapped, better it hit a pirate than a marine. Getting over his shock at Ace's moniker for him, Sanji shook his head and stepped up to the door. He raised his leg and pushed, the wheel handle spinning until it hit its limit with a loud clunk. The door swung open, creaking on its old hinges, but no trap appeared. Looks like we're in the clear, the man commented, sticking his head in to follow the stairs with his gaze. We've got 3 or 4 levels in total. Sunny said she sensed Don Luffy and others on 3rd floor. Jin reminded them. I'm not sure I want to see what's on other ones. I do, Ace offered. Not until we find your father, Nami denied. I see what the offer, Rum commented within Jin's head, making the monk flinch. They're delightfully twisted. Fighting them will make us stronger. In fact, they almost seem familiar. Oh, I don't like that. What is it? Kaku questioned, turning the Marine's attentions to the ex-agent and rogue pirate. My, mantra, Jin began, tapping his temple with a finger to avoid giving away too much to those not in the know, is picking up some nasty stuff somewhere. It feels familiar, but I can't place it. Nasty stuff? Ace asked. Is it worms? Worms are super nasty. Oh, or not clean bathrooms. Those are nasty, too. Oh, is it like squashed buggy parts all over your hands? That's the worst ever. No, young master, Jin chuckled. I'm talking about monsters that are real strong. Strong monsters? The toddler echoed. Let's go fight them. Daddy got real strong fighting monsters and I want to do that, too. Not right now, Nami said, hoping her statement would quietly become, never, once they sailed away from the island. Jin, can your mantra sense the others? Rum, you have received all I will give, my dear oaf. Damn you, the feeling is mutual. Kukuku. No luck, Donna, Jin said aloud with a shake of his head. I can't find him. I'd try, but I'm not at the point where I can track people, Sanji admitted, having long ago missed the crew talk about what haki any of them possessed. Battle is my focus, I'm afraid. Well, let's climb the stairs, Nami sighed, letting Sanji happily lead the way. Monsters, monsters, Ace sang, reminding Nami of the silly songs Luffy would make up until Brook joined the crew. Mon monsters, punch him in the head, punch him in the gut, and, get, strong. Kaku, Jin muttered, walking alongside the tag-along. I gotta ask, do you think we're bad influences on young master? I can't say, the square-nosed Zone replied with a shrug, one hand rising to rub his chin. I mean, I was raised by the government. That didn't do me any favors. His is certainly a better song than the ones we grew up with. Like what? Well, there was this one about all the toxins and their effects on the human body. For instance, one verse is about the venom of this wandering spider, which causes men to experience very painful I think I get it, the monk interrupted. Point is, I trade my childhood for the one he'll have in a heartbeat. Don't know if I would or, grahuho. The hell was that? Smoker growled, one hand reaching up to grab the handle of his jute. His eyes followed the sound, landing on the door to the 2nd floor. Monster. Ace supplied, helpfully. It's something not friendly, that's for sure, Sanji commented. We aren't going to get out of here without whatever that was getting loose, are we? Nami muttered. Not if boss has a release switch, Jin agreed. Let's leave that for when we're all back together, yeah? But big monsters, Ace argued. As if there was any doubt about him being Luffy's kid. Sanji gave a melancholic chuckle with a shake of his head. There is something coming down, Smoker commented, prompting the others to follow his lead and look up. Tashigi went so far as to put her glasses back on. It looks like a green cloud, she said, squinting. She flinched, flecks of something brown falling from above to bounce off her leans. Ah, I think it's dangerous, Jin warned, pointing to the edge of the cloud itself. The metal stairwell wherever the gas touched quickly turned brown and began to fall apart. As they watched, a section of the landing above gave a groan as its load-bearing capability fell below its own load. The post holding it up snapped, the whole thing crumbling as it began its downward journey. The walls seemed mostly unaffected. I'll take the monsters over that, Nami shouted, grabbing the handle to the 2nd floor. Jin and Kaku matched her speed, the three working in tandem to get the portal open. Nami was the first one through, the rest of the group following in her example before Sanji swung the door shut. Barely had the door finished closing before it gave a kerthink. The stairs loudly fell apart on the other side. "Did that just?" Tashigi muttered. "Yeah," Sanji nodded, testing the handle. "We just got locked in." Oh, Ace said, one little arm waving. "I know what we say when this happens, old man Garb taught me." Huh? Nami blinked. "What are you? Shit, what a pain. Yeti cool brothers, attack." The two white-furred giants shifted, pulling the triggers of their guns to fire on the spot where Amy stood. The massive projectiles hit the ground with a boom, the earth shaking with the impact. Snow, once settled, rose into the air once more as the localized air pressure increased and decreased in rapid succession. Law stood some distance away, his sword unsheathed at his side and his other hand out, ready to call forth a room when needed. "Kya ha ha ha." Amy laughed, her voice echoing from within the snow cloud. The wind picked up, blowing away the precipitation the attack had kicked up. She stood in a small crater, her hockey-coated hands each holding a projectile similar in size and make to a small cannonball. "I know our bounties haven't been updated for a couple years, but I really hope you didn't think something like that would do any of us in." "Do not blame me for being hopeful," Law replied, a sphere of blue extending from his hand to quickly encompass the battlefield. Room. "Don't think turning things blue is going to help you," Amy warned, launching herself forward, Master Fist.
Shambles. And Law disappeared, one of the giants filling the space where he'd been. Worse than that, whichever of the brothers it was in the middle of an uppercut upon the switch. Amy only had time for her eyes to widen before the giant fist impacted, blasting her backward. She hit the ground quickly, carving a trench through the snow and dirt.
Amy, Chopper and Brook cried as the Marines and children yelled, "Pirate Lady!" "Ow," the giant muttered, shaking his hand. "Don't hit my Nakama," Sunny roared, her cannons firing in a quick BB-B boom. The projectiles met their target, engulfing the giant's upper body in black smoke. "Scotch!" the other giant yelled with a deep, rumbling voice. He spun his gun, holding the barrel like one holds the grip of a baseball bat. "I'll get you for that, pirate ship, I'll smash you to kindling." "You won't touch her," Chopper denied, placing himself between the unhurt giant and the Sunny and his kung fu point. "I won't let you, Wah-cha." "Is that a new form, Chopper?" Brook questioned. "Oh, you haven't seen it yet," Chopper realized, turning away from the giant to look at Brook, one hoof rising to rub the back of his head. "Yeah, I learned this one during our time apart." "Less talking, more fighting," Amy grunted, climbing to her feet. "Also, look out, Chopper." The doctor turned to see the giant he was facing had raised his new club over his head. Chopper's eyes popped out, awe. The human reindeer dove out of the way as the weapon hit the snow where he'd been standing with a crunch. Chopper rolled, leaving a divot in the snow as he jumped back the direction from which he'd come, landing on the giant's weapon. Amy, meanwhile, sized up the giant who had been identified as Scotch, now discernible from his brother by the ash streaked into his upper hair. The same giant that punched her. "All right, big, tall, and ugly," she said, "you and me, let's go." He didn't reply, only running forward as if to stomp on the blonde pirate. The ground shook with every step, but Amy only smirked. She dropped into a squat, balling her fists as she coated them with her hockey and increased her mass to the limit. The giant's foot came down, and Amy surged upward, her fists pushing up against the Scotch's arch. There was a satisfying crack before he let out a sound of pain, the sort of sound someone might say after stepping on a Lego. Scotch recoiled, hopping on his good foot as he cradled the other. Amy suspected she'd broken it with that "Found you," Law muttered as the weightless woman turned her eyes on him. He had his eyes closed, one hand extended toward the Sunny. "Come to me, heir of chaos, Shambles." A form appeared from thin air, but it was not that of the captain's son. "Yo, what the hell, man?" Frankie questioned, his Speedo-clad form not dressed for the weather in any way. He was crouched down as well, one mechanical hand pointed to show the blowtorch he'd installed in one of the fingers. "I was super in the middle of something." "You are not Straw Hat's child," Law blinked. "You bet your ass I'm not," Frankie unnecessarily confirmed, striking his signature pose. "I'm the one and only super, cyborg, Frankie. Super. Super." A host of the male children and a couple Marines echoed, striking the same pose. "Tricked you. Rahaha," Sunny laughed, manifesting herself in her own rigging. Her smiling, minimalist face looked down as she pointed at the warlord. "The prince you're looking for is in another castle, Surgeon of Death." "That castle?" Her finger moved, pointing at the building on the other side. "Then this is pointless," Law growled. "Yeti cool brothers, we need to retreat."
Law's eyes widened as the brothers fell, one before the other, each covered in bruises. Amy sat on the shoulders of Scotch, the blonde cackling away at his pain, whilst Chopper struck his own celebratory poses on the other.
"I guess size isn't everything, huh?" Amy laughed. "Kya ha ha ha." And that's the power of my kung fu point, watch ah. Scotch, rocks, law side. I guess that's 2 less problems to worry about, but I can't have you all getting in the way until it's time. Pardon me. Tact. He reached forward, pointing at the Sunny. I won't give you a chance, Amy warned, only for her charge to come to a screeching halt. I don't like this, Sunny cried, clinging to her rigging. The pirates turned at the sound of her voice, their eyes bulging as they saw her whole ship rising out of the water and flipping over itself.
This is scary. Brooke agreed, his arms wrapped around the mast.
Lay off Sunny, Frankie ordered, reeling back for a strong right. Law only glanced at him before disappearing, substituting himself with a flake of snow several feet away. Now, mass amputation. His sword, Kokoku, glinted as Law swung, the force of his swing affecting the air pressure around. He stood still, his long odachi unsullied by anything. He nodded to himself, slowly sheathing the blade.
Before him, every pirate fell to pieces, quite literally. Such pieces varied in size and parts, but not even Sunny was spared as her hull was split in thirds, her mast separated at their bases, and her figurehead popped away from its place. With her body in parts, so too did her manifestation reflect this, the Cleboterman similarly splitting. Law gestured with his hands, laying the pieces of the Sunny across the land, away from the water.
What? Amy gasped. Her mouth squished between a thigh and an arm. You're the sorcerer that Samurai was talking about. I've been dissected, Chopper cried, his little arms flailing like worms writhing in dirt. Not super, bro, Frankie yelled, one mechanical hand releasing its smaller mechanical hand to flip Law the bird. I can see my bones, Brooke screamed. Wait, I can always do that.
My work here is done, Law commented to himself, ignoring the cries of shock and terror rising from the pirates. The warlord turned his eye on the Marines, giving them a silent warning to stay out of his way lest they meet a similar fate. They seemed to get the message, only glaring at him as he stepped into the darkness of the laboratory.
So, Frankie began, surprisingly nonchalant at the whole, cut into pieces thing as he shifted half of his face to see the Marines and the other half to see the children. You guys gonna help put us back together or what? I hate that guy, Amy grumbled as a pair of children carefully replaced her severed arm.
That in itself was not a sentence she had expected to use before, but the severance and reconstruction of human bodies was probably par for the course when facing down the warlord Trafalgar Law. She hadn't thought about what it meant when the Marines admitted the Surgeon of Death earned his title by delivering them the hearts of 100 pirates, but she now considered that the act might not be as gruesome as previously believed.
The hip bones connected to the leg bone. A pair of girls sang as they tried to put Chopper together, the reindeer doctor trying to correct their mistakes before they made them. Unfortunately, his medical training caused him to use terminology the children could not follow. And the leg bones connected to the knee bone.
The knees are made of cartilage. Chopper corrected. They aren't bones. Also, that's my right femur. It doesn't go on the left. And flip it over. Don't connect it at the radius. Yo ho ho. Brooke chuckled, the skeleton laying out on the snow as the children around him picked up his piled up pieces with squinted eyes. I seems have become a puzzle. I had not foreseen this happening, but I'm thankful I have you all to help. I doubt my eyes would be so discerning. Not that I have eyes. Yo ho ho.
Amy reached up, now possessing both of her hands once more, and straightened her head upon her neck. She felt it lock into its proper place, undoing whatever Law's powers had done, even while the kids carried her legs close enough for her to reach them. The blonde sent a glare toward the Marines, several of the men leering at said appendages. The fact they were not attached to her at the time did confuse Amy a bit, but that was mostly swallowed in the disgust. She swiftly replaced her missing limbs. At the least, their leering would not be so weird now. M-Maker, the soft voice of their ship whimpered. Amy looked over, the Thousand Sunny's various pieces resting heavy on the shoreline. Several of the children and even a few Marines had tried to put her Clebouterman back together to no avail.
The manifestation of her spirit was a reflection of her vessel, and putting her ship back together would be a Herculean task for the whole crew, much less even possible for the limited number still beside her. At least, Amy suspected that since she wasn't a shipwright. Spectral tears leaked from where Sunny's eyes would be, the same happening from the eyes of her decapitated figurehead. Everyone. I don't like this. It's cold and I don't feel right.
Amy felt her herd squeeze at the whimper. The blonde walking over on unsteady feet. Older sibling instincts running full throttle. Amy fell to her knees beside the piece of railing on which Sunny had gathered her dismembered manifestations. Her blank, red-tinted head rolled slightly in an attempt to look up, Amy gathering her head into her arms to hold Sunny close. Shush, she whispered, running her hand over the back of Sunny's head even as the wood fairy continued to sniffle. Amy noted that she could barely feel the softness of hair and chalked it up to Sunny's growing humanization. It's okay, Sunny. We're here. We're going to put you back together. Can you move anything? The fairy sniffed. I can move my ropes. And my cannons, but it doesn't feel right. Everything's the wrong way. Super job, guys, Frankie called, now having control over one of his arms again. He lifted it, testing the motion and the mechanisms within.
Pulling it back, he threw his arm forward with a strong right, grabbing onto his other arm where trio of Marines were struggling to lift it. His chain tightened, dragging his other arm to where it was meant to be. It didn't matter that his chest was still disconnected from the rest of his abdomen, but when your body was mostly made of metal, putting it back together could be slow going without monster-level strength. I'll take it from here. Just make sure my legs are all together right, yeah. Sure thing, Mr. Robot. A trio of boys saluted, the three of them having appointed themselves Frankie's apprentices. None of the pirates had any illusions this would last beyond their stint on the island, but Amy was sure the memory would last their whole lives through. The trio scurried away, finding any pieces that had metal as part of them. Is Maker okay? Sunny asked. We're all fine, Amy insisted. That warlord chopped us up with his devil fruit power, but we're getting put back together. There won't be any lasting damage to us or you. I promise.
Really? Yes. Really? Amy rocked the Klabouterman's head, softly humming a tune from her and Grace's childhoods in the West Blue. She maintained this calming practice until the other Straw Hats were returned to their normal shapes. Frankie stepped up beside her, whistling at Sunny's state. Man, the cyborg commented. That guy sure did a super number on you, didn't he, Sunny? Not helping, Frankie, Amy hissed, her arms tightening around Sunny's manifested head. Nah, it's okay, Frankie insisted, offering both ship and human a smile and a thumbs up. Sunny, I put you together before you were alive and I can put you together again now. You know how super good I am, Sunny. You have all the skills I have. Trust me when I say you'll be fine.
You promise, Maker. No promise about it, Sunny. That's a super Frankie guarantee. He looked up, surveying the near flotsam Law had turned the thousand Sunny into. His smile fell into a frown of concentration as he worked out what needed to connect to what and how he was going to make it happen. Alright, this would be easier with any of the monsters were here.
I see can move my ropes, Sunny offered. In that case, we can make this work, Frankie grinned. He turned, making eye contact with the G5 Marines. Hey Navy guys, which of you all are shipwrights? That would be us, a quintet of men answered, their leader wearing a bucket stamped with their branch on his head. They eyed Frankie warily. Why? You all better pay attention and do what I say, and maybe you'll learn something. I'm gonna teach you all how to put a ship back together. Barely had the door finished closing before it gave a kerthink. Did that just? Tashigi muttered. Yeah, Sanji nodded. We just got locked in. Oh, Ace said, one little arm waving. I know what we say when this happens, old man Garb taught me. Huh? Nami blinked. What are you, shit, as much as I don't want to agree that. I think the young master's right, Jin muttered, shying away a little at the frozen, tense smile on Nami's face. Ace seemed pleased with himself, his smile much more genuine despite the situation the group now found themselves in. The room was lit, but only barely, whatever dim bulbs existed above only giving the pirates, and the Marines and Kaku, enough light to see each other in close range. The walls were cold to the touch, made of dense metal painted a dreary gray. I'm more worried about these monsters y'all mentioned, Kaku commented. The government outlawed experimental animal bioweaponization when they couldn't be trained unilaterally. Too many losses, you know. We actually had to wipe out a rogue lab of scientific zealots trying to mutate humans using Fishman and Sea King samples years ago. Nasty stuff. That means whoever is here is committing these atrocious acts, Tashigi hissed. What's their goal? The furtherance of science for science's sake, Sanji suggested with a frown. A roar, muffled but not nearly as much as the last one, echoed through the hallway from the darkness beyond. Now closer, however, Nami and the others wondered about the strange vibrato the sound carried, sounding almost like it was meant to be laughter of some sort. Jin felt along the wall, finding a switch. He flipped it, finding his prayers answered as the lights turned on, illuminating the floor. Nothing stood directly ahead save more hallway leading to a corner. Let's hope there are more stairs somewhere on this floor, Nami said. Buhei set off down the hallway. It would do her no good to show Ace her fear. Caution, however, was a different matter, the navigator glancing around the corner before following through. The corner led only to a door, sized for someone especially tall but still within the bounds of basic human anatomy. This door had the same wheel handle as the last, but what concerned Nami was the word printed over its archway. The letters for manias were written in dark red paint, the script somehow more ominous than it had been over the biscuit room. Well, Smoker prompted. What are you waiting for? It's either this way or the rusted outstairs. Then why don't you go first, Smoker? Nami demanded. I won't be the first one attacked by whatever's in there. Fine. I'd like to be done with this sooner rather than later. The smoke man stepped forward, forcing the door open as its hinges protested. The door opened into a much wider area, boxes sized to fit things equal to or bigger than elephants scattered around the edges. Each was shrouded in darkness, and closed to the world from any light, their walls solid stone lined with metal along the edges. A string of powerful lights turned on as they entered, temporarily blinding the group until their eyes could adjust. With the light now illuminating the room, the pirates and allies noted that they were on the lower of 2 levels, the next one up more like a balcony that ran the length of the perimeter. On the far side of the room was a doorway that was much larger than the one they had just entered through, built in such a way as to rise when activated. The center of this room was lower than the edges, the pirates standing at the top of a dozen or so stairs that also ran around the area. At the bottom was a circular, damaged floor with the giant boxes. Each box they could see, 5 in total and all of them sitting a half level under them, was labeled with a number and what looked like a name. The furthest from the door and the only one facing them had no 130CEAN in white lettering. "This looks like an arena," Sanji commented, breathing out a puff of smoke. "Check out the floor, it's got gashes and cracks in it, and there's glass around that upper level." Tashigi ran down the stairs, stopping at the first set of cuts in the concrete. She knelt, studying them. "These weren't made by a sword," she said, running a gloved hand over the edges. "These are claw marks, but not from anything I can identify." "I can agree with that statement," Kinemon nodded. "Whatever beast created these markings must be of a gargantuan size." "Maybe they're in the boxes," Ace suggested, pointing. "That one say ocean." Tashigi moved, studying the others. "No 42GRASSLAND, she read. "No 52DESERT, Jin muttered as he and the others joined her on the lower level, the lightning man running a hand over another such box. He frowned. "No 37INSECT, Smoker read aloud from another. "It's not just biomes, whatever it is." "I can't even try to pronounce this," Sanji said, gesturing to the last box which read No 24MYRMECOPHAGOUS. "I know science has some weird words, but that one doesn't even look real. Is it an animal or something?" "But what are these?" Nami wondered, extending her backup cleam attack to be ready at the drop of a hat.
"They're big boxes, Mommy," Ace supplied, very helpfully.
"I know that, sweetheart. I want to know what they're used for." "Boxes hold things, Mommy. Whatever they are, they're inset with sea prism stone," Smoker announced. "I can feel it start trying to drain my energy when I get close." "He's right," Jin agreed. "It's not enough tea, cut our powers off, but enough tea, weaken us, so it ain't pure." "That must mean whatever is in these has devil fruit powers," Sanji commented. "I have never heard of this stone," Kinemon admitted. "Is this common in the outside world? Do you mean to say this material is impervious to magic and sorcery?" "It ain't common and it ain't magic," Jin replied. "Folks like me, Smoker, and several OTH ones were looking for have powers, each of them different. Probably you too. Come T, think of it what with your leaf T, clothes trick. We can't swim cuz o' that. Ain't nobody sure why, but water weakens us and this kind o' stone has same properties."
"Most of it is in the hands of the world government," Smoker offered. "Estimated reports believe around 90% is in the hands of the government and its allies including the kingdoms and the marines, with every reported sea prism stone mine in their control. It is difficult to be approved for allowance for fear pirates could get a hold of it."
"Isn't your weapon topped with it?" Sanji remembered. "It is, and you would not know the hoops I needed to jump through to get even that much." "The memory of all that paperwork still gives me a headache," Tashigi grumbled. The box she was closest to, the one labeled Grassland, shook, a horrifying, trumpeting, bree-hee-hee, coming from within. Tashigi backed away, drawing Shigur out of habit. Jin, Sanji, and Kaku all dropped into ready stances. Sounds came from within the other boxes as if in response, all of them mixing into a horrible cacophony of noise. "Dear oh dear," a feminine voice chuckled, dragging attention upward. Behind the glass of the upper level stood a woman, petite in stature with most of her green dress and small frame covered in a long lab coat. Her hands were held up before her torso, the sleeves reaching past her hands. She was pretty, all things considered, with shorter, wavy, periwinkle hair and square-rimmed glasses accentuating her yellow, slitted eyes. Her hair was held back out of her face by a black Alice band with small devil horns sticking upward, feathers of various yellows and greens interspersed in the light purple blue. One lock of her hair free to frame the right side of her face with its own feather. Her neck had a scar running downward diagonally from the neckline, clearly the result of a near-death experience. She reached up, both of her hands adjusting her glasses in lieu of her fingers not showing. "It seems some lab rats have wandered into my facility. What dreadful manners. Does our dear master know you're here?"
"Oh, evil scientist T," Ace cheered. "Cool. Identify yourself," Smoker ordered, pulling out his jute to point it at the woman. "What is this place?"
"She's beautiful, whoever she is," Sanji swooned. "But you have not identified yourselves," the woman teased. "Ah, but I can see 2 of you are Marines. Simply dreadful to see you here. Dreadful, I say. Your deaths will make it more difficult for us to skate by on this island. It would be dreadful to see all my research here go to waste." "That voice," Kaku muttered, his eyes narrowing. "I know that voice." Oh, the woman blinked. Have we? She trailed off, leaning against the glass. Her eyes widened, her breath quickening. Well, I'll be. Is that a member of CP9? Whatever are you here for? Dreadful to see you again, by the way. Simply dreadful. Kaku, you know this woman? Nami asked. Yeah, I do. The ex-agent answered, flexing his fingers. You're supposed to be dead, Dr. Velo. Khalifa killed you herself. That makes two of us who have cheated death without the public knowing, although I must say I did a better job of it, the woman laughed. One of her sleeves ran over her scar. Not that there wasn't a serious attempt, mind you. I would have died such a dreadful death if my savior had not found his way to the lab after you lot escaped. He brought me to my captain and the greatest scientific treasure trove I could have ever hoped for, so I suppose I must thank you for your most dreadful actions. Kaku, who th hell is she? Jin demanded. Dr. Valori Velo of the now-defunct Lovecraft Institute of Medicine and Research, the long-nosed blonde replied. She and the rest of her team violated international law with their experiments relating to humans, mutation, and the weaponization thereof. So a few patients had some dreadful reactions to some experimental medicines and lost their minds. The woman waved off, flapping. It was all to be for the greater good, culling overpopulation, eliminating diseases, killing pirates. Then one patient happens to be the daughter of a vice admiral and the whole organization turns on you, dreadful series of circumstances that, simply.
You're insane, Tashigi gasped. No, Marine. Dr. Velo replied, the outline of the woman pointing upward appearing under one of her sleeves. I'm genius. I don't blame you for the confusion, though. It is a fine line. Dreadfully blurry in some cases. I mean, Vegapunk alters humans with robotics and dabbles in cloning and he gets a pass, but I mess with a person's cells and I'm the monster. Ridiculous. I make the monsters.
You. Nami cut herself off, her eyes glancing to the boxes around them. Then these things.
My favorite babies, she cooed with a clap and a head tilt.
Captain allowed me to keep them, even here so far away. And when we get unwanted guests or simply dreadful lackeys, I get to have some fun. Why don't I introduce you to them? She strode to a control panel and pressed several buttons. The boxes hissed, the faces with the writing on each one slowly pushing outward a couple inches before they started to rise. The beasts within, whatever they were, screeched and clawed at the inside. The group below backed up into a circle, covering each other's backs. I do hope you can give my babies a good workout. They haven't been able to cut loose in so long. The box labeled Ocean was the first to open, a popping hiss coming from within. A crab's arm sized to something one might find in the depths of the Grand Line thunked against the opening, the creature within wiggling into the light. It stood 10 feet tall, its lower half nothing but writhing tentacles. One arm was that of a crab, but the other was twice that size though similarly shaped if longer in length, their purple-blue sheen at odds with the tentacles' red.
The torso was a turtle shell, a sickly green in color, and two stingray tails lashed the air behind it. The most hideous part was the face, however, the mouth and nose replaced with a beak lined with jagged teeth. The face above that was mostly human, bright blue eyes wide under a crown like an octopus bulbous head. A tag hung from one ear, noting it 13.
Poo pop 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 pop, it blubbered, smashing its claws into the floor. Big monster. Ace cheered from Nami's arms. Aren't they just darling? Dr. Velo cooed. The monster jerked at the sound of her voice, freezing in place. I call them manias. It's a play off their original dreadful name. Ah, but you all wouldn't know anything about that. What have you done in Terabang? Nami gasped, recoiling from the twisted creation. The rest of the boxes finished opening as she did, the allied group studying their newest foes with trepidation. From the box labeled Grassland came a creature out of Kaku's nightmares. The upper part of the face was human, that of a woman with red hair, and was framed by a mane of 5 elephant ears, but the face fell into the trunk of an elephant lined with the horns of a rhinoceros and capped with the mouth of a hippopotamus. The neck and body were that of a long giraffe supported by the legs of lions, zebras, cheetahs, rhinos, okapi, and hippos. It slithered its way out of the box like a centipede, its ear tag reading 42. Brihihia. From the box labeled insect came what used to be another woman. The head and chest were humanoid, but the skin was a sallow white like glue, 13 eyes lining around the face and mandibles. It was the smallest so far, standing at only 8 feet, with 8 limbs, 4 arms and 4 legs, up and down its thorax. Its abdomen, the last segment, split into 2, the upper with a scorpion's tail rising over the head and the lower with a hornet's stinger. Butterfly wings patterned black on orange fluttered, holding it in the air. It made a sound like, kikekekekek, swinging ear tag reading 37. From the box labeled Desert came the head of the creature first. Its head, too, was mostly human, a thick, blue tongue hanging from the lips of what had been a tan man. The neck was a snake's body lined with diamond shapes connecting to the body of a camel with 3 humps. It was supported by 5 legs like that of a roadrunner, the one in the middle twice as strong as each of the others.
It was also part scorpion, two such claws rising from its rear. Where the arms would be were two birds' wings. Standing at 9 feet, its ear tag read 52, the man laughing hysterically. Yeah ha 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 ha.
The final box was the one labeled MYRMECOPHAGOUS, its tongue slithering outward. There were 3 of them, each long and thin, leading back to what had been a man with a bulbous nose and a mohawk. This mohawk continued its way down the body's back, said body lined with brown scales leading to a wide, flat tail. The thing's legs were strong and thick, lined with hair from below the knee, and its arms were each topped with 2 sharp claws. The tongues dripped saliva, the floor sizzling with every drop. At 13 feet, its tag read 24. What horrible creatures, Kinnaman commented, balancing himself on one hand as the other drew one of his blades. They are nothing like anything I have ever seen. Look at my babies, Dr. Velo said, every beast freezing at her words. She spread her arms, a wide smile on her face. Ocean, grassland, desert, insect, and MYRMECOPHAGOUS. Such dreadfully cute manias, it's still hard to believe I turned them from failed gambles into proper weapons, but even I'm surprised by my dreadful genius at times.
I would explain the process so you could also revel in my brilliance, but I suspect the science would go over your heads. But my manias understand. They're quite, She paused, one covered hand rising to rest by her ear. Yes, master. This is Velo, yes, there's a group here, a child. Well, yes, but not one I recognize. Does it matter, Ace, you say? Dreadful choice of name for a little one nowadays if you ask me, of course, master. As you wish.
I have a bad feeling about this, Kaku muttered. Dreadfully sorry, all, Dr. Velo apologized, another button press lowering the glass directly in front of her. New orders from the master, I'm afraid. White Hunter. Smoker yelled, his legs turning into smoke as he shot upward. Jude aimed for the scientist's throat. In the name of justice, your experiments end here, Velo. Grassland. Up. The so-named beast surged upward, its trunk and 4 of its legs covering themselves with the black sheen of armament hockey. Smoker crashed into it, stopping him cold before the trunk smacked him back down to the floor. He crashed into the concrete, a dribble of blood leaking from the side of his lips. Commodore. Tashigi cried. These things have got hockey and terabang, Jin gasped. That is not good, Sanji agreed. All they sent was a single Commodore and his posse? Velo questioned, hopping onto the console, her sleeve shifting to reveal a 3-fingered, clawed hand covered in green and orange scales. Perhaps your disappearances will not be such dreadful trouble to cover up after all. She reached forward, her hands separating at the wrist to shoot forward on a chain. Evil cyborg scientist T. Ace realized only a moment before the claws clamped around torso. Ah, mommy. Ace. His small body slipped from Nami's hold as the claw retracted, pulling the toddler into the doctor's hold on the upper level. Get my baby back, you bitch. Such dreadful language should not be used around a child. Velo chastised, her claw holding the struggling Ace tightly. What would others think if they heard him say something similar? Evil cyborg scientist is a meanie. Ace yelled, little fist swinging through the air. Damn meanie bitch, let me go.
Oh dear, he's already learned a dreadful vocabulary, Velo sighed, showing no strain holding Ace in place. You needn't worry about that remaining a problem, however. Master says we'll raise him into the best scientist to ever live as his apprentice. Why, I'd hazard to predict he'll be a dreadful plague on the war care, so it's not like the future will change that much. Give him back, Nami repeated, her cleam attack turning into a blue blur in her hands. Thunderbolt. Velo denied, holding Ace before her. Nami's eyes widened, redirecting the bolt of lightning she'd sent forward up into the ceiling where it dispersed harmlessly. That's what I thought. Playing with electricity like that is dreadfully dangerous. You won't get away with this, Nami yelled, Velo backing up toward a metal door. Just wait until Luffy hears about this. You better hope he finds you before I do, he'd knock you out faster. Mommy, help. Master has already dealt with him, Velo said. And you won't make it out of this room alive. Farewell, pirates and marines. And Kaku, do die a dreadfully painful death for me, will you? Ta-ta. She stepped out the door, only to pop her head back in a second later. Ah, I almost forgot. Manias, play. Coby moaned, his stiff joints protesting as he tried to move while a thin layer of frost popped and cracked. Chains rattled as he did so, stopping his arms halfway to his face. His eyes widened, his willpower alone keeping him from breaking into tears at certain reminders. What happened? Where am I? We succumbed to an ambush and have been imprisoned, the voice of the crew's archaeologist answered, Coby turning his head to see her. She was only a blur in his vision, a sign that he was being held in part by sea prism stone. The master, the Krokator, and the winged woman together managed to overpower us through some means. We didn't even do anything to them, Usopp grumbled from Robin's other side. I hate being on the other side of a sneak attack. Where are Captain Luffy and Mary? Coby asked. Mary is enclosed within a cylinder a stone's throw away from us, Robin replied, prompting a banging from several yards away. Whomever holds command of this place is taking great care to not allow our escape, with knowledge or ingenuity enough to neutralize even Mary's Klabotterman abilities. As for our dear captain, I cannot say. He was not here when Long Nose and I awoke.
Of course. Coby rolled his eyes, checking his inventory. His shokusha and kimono were no longer sheathed along his back, something he sadly suspected would be the case. But it appeared the dragon's egg they had taken from the slain lizard was still strapped to his chest with the extra coat he'd taken when given the chance. Well, I'm weaponless and powerless. You all got any ideas? Wait for Luffy to come back, Usopp suggested. Coby could not see him but offered a flat look in his general direction. Thought I'd give it a try, the blob that was the sniper shrugged. They know our faces from our wanted posters, and I suspect they are aware of which of us have devil fruit powers, Robin commented. That being said, they are not clairvoyant. Coby could not tell what she was doing with his cruddy vision. You can pick locks with hairpins? Usopp questioned, Coby sending his a silent, thank you, for clarifying Robin's actions.
But of course, the woman replied. I have been evading the world government since the age of 8. I have had to, as they say, pick up a few street tricks to survive. Nami and Grace are not the only accomplished thieves on the crew.
Fair enough, Usopp replied as the clank of Robin's chains hitting the floor echoed round the metal room. Why didn't you do that before? I needed to regain some energy and wait for Coby to awaken. Sorry for holding you back, Coby muttered, his ears telling him Robin was repeating her feat for Usopp. Soon, his own chains fell to the floor, the sniper all but shaving toward the cylinder that apparently contained his surrogate niece, daughter. Robin made her way to Coby, kneeling before him as her hand took hold of his wrist. He felt the cuffs shift, coming off shortly thereafter. The zone breathed out a sigh of relief, his eyes shifting as his now usual eyesight returned. Mary and Terabang, Usopp called, Coby seeing the sniper had his face pressed against the side of the cylinder. Mary, are you okay? And Terabang. The spirit of their first ship responded with a bang from inside. Robin strode over, her arms crossed as she searched the container for structural weaknesses with her powers. The top of this structure possesses an inset cylinder of metal, the woman said. Presumably, this is a catch for the magnet hanging from the ceiling. The rest of this cylinder is a sturdy rock, but it is not sea prism stone. I'll crush it, then, Coby offered, growing into his Dino mode and pawing at the ground. Robin and Usopp vacated the area between the zone and the cylinder. Look out, Mary, here I come. Before Coby could start, however, the upper edge of the cylinder facing them cracked. The three pirates paused. Within, Coby could feel Mary's spirit as she readied another tempest kick. One after another lashed the inside of the cylinder, each slowly weakening the integrity until, with a hard crack, a brick-sized piece of the rock fell away. Finally, Mary yelled from inside, the Klabouterman throwing her heart out the opening. Her clothes soon followed suit, pooling into a pile on the ground. Coby's eyes widened at the implication. I'm coming out. Robin crossed her arms, covering Coby and Usopp's eyes with bloomed arms. Their vision was not obstructed for long before Mary had rematerialized and redressed, straightening the dress she'd borrowed from Robin under the coat she got upon entering the building. Damn, that thing was tough, the fairy commented, stretching. You don't know how long I've been hammering at that thing's insides. Long enough, I guess, Coby suggested. Mary shrugged. Close enough. Where are we?
Somewhere within the compound, Robin answered. None of us were awake for our transport, so we cannot be sure how far or how long the journey here was. What do you each recall?
The Krokator and the Birdwoman held us back as that gas thing knocked us out, Usopp grumbled. The master took a serious interest in Ace, Mary offered. And the Birdwoman had some form of cold powers, Coby added. That's how she knocked Captain Luffy and me out. Well, we now possess information we did not have previously, Robin nodded. Coby, can you locate our companions with your haki? Give me a moment. The zone closed his eyes, focusing as the world dimmed and the lights of the various lives and souls of the surrounding area appeared in his mind's eye. There's a group including Nami, Sanji, and Jin somewhere on the second floor surrounded by, I don't know what those things are. They feel twisted. We're on the third floor and on the other side of this floor are the Master and the Harpy. There are workers scattered around the lab, too, and I can just barely feel Captain Luffy way below us. Coby's eyebrows furrowed. Someone I don't recognize has Ace and is moving quickly toward the Master. It sounds like we have several timed tasks to look into and or deal with soon, the eldest of the group commented. The captain can handle himself, so that leaves the group being attacked and the kidnapped Ace. Preferences? Mary and I will go after Ace, Usopp offered. But Uncle Usopp, the fairy protested, big monsters. I need to be the coolest uncle, the sniper argued quickly. Ahem. And I can't track them on the move by myself. I'm sure Coby and Robin will save you a monster to fight. What even is this crew? Coby muttered, pinching the bridge of his nose. I'm impartial. Do whatever you want. Very well, the archaeologist smiled. That was rather simple. Next order of business, how do we escape this cell when, unlike Mary's previous confinement, those of us with powers cannot affect the exit? The group turned their attention on the door. A great circle of dark metal Robin confirmed was, in fact, laced with sea prism stone. They blinked. So, Mary began. Who wants to learn Tempest Kick? I imagine this'll give us a lot of practice.
Momo, wait a second, Luffy ordered, stopping the pink knot and eel in his Trachnosuke. The zone protested. Luffy ignored him, the pirate working his way to a pile of metal and rubbish ahead of them. Momonosuke followed slowly, trying to see what had caused the man's countenance to change.
I don't like that, the rubber man said, kneeling at the base of the pile. He reached forward, picking up a weapon Momonosuke had not seen before but could identify the use of. It had a large gold-encased weight on one end, the metal etched with golden designs leading back to what the zone guessed was a handle. You recognize that creation? Momonosuke asked. Yeah, Luffy nodded. This belongs to Jin. It's one of a pair, but if Jin's weapons are down here, I figure several of my friend's tools are. I should find them. Before Momonosuke could ask another question, Luffy threw his arm upward, easily reaching the peak of the trash pile. He cast his discerning eyes downward, looking for anything he might recognize.
Can you tell me what you're looking for? Momonosuke called up to him. Perhaps I can assist you.
The pirate hummed. He pointed at something on the other side of the pile. Umbrella. His hand shifted, pointing at something further away. Slingshot, there's the other tonfa, and that's. Luffy jumped, landing somewhere on the other side where Momonosuke could not see him. The pink creature scurried around the pile, quickly finding the man holding what looking like a length of blue pipe. Luffy's head was on a swivel, looking for something. Ah, Mr. Luffy. What's wrong? This is Nami's, the pirate answered. If they touch her, I'll beat them all within an inch of their lives. His tone sent a shiver down Momonosuke's back, that flash of negative emotion making the zone consider that maybe Luffy could live up to what he thought a pirate was. Perhaps it would be best to stay on this man's good side. Why don't we collect their weapons? He suggested. I'm certain they would like them back. Yeah, Luffy agreed after a moment's pause. Something flashed in the corner of his vision. Luffy turning quickly only to see it had disappeared behind another pile. He dropped into a ready stance, Jin's tonfa held in one hand and 1/3 of Nami's perfect clean attacked in the other. Momo, stay behind me. My name is Momonosuke, the zone protested with less vigor than before, complying with the demand. The pair eyed the direction warily. Poot, Momonosuke interrobang. Luffy countenance shifted instantly, a laugh bubbling from his throat. It's the legs. Wah. The creature blinked as a pair of legs without anything above the pelvis jumped onto a piece of metal ahead of them. "'Kay, father? Poot, is that Momonosuke I sense? Thank the spirits? Father, what happened to you interrobang? Momonosuke rushed forward, running around the disembodied legs. Your top half is missing. What sorcery is this interrobang? It's because of a devil fruit, obviously. Luffy laughed. You didn't know about them before. Are you stupid, Momo? I am not stupid, the zone yelled, and my name is Momonosuke. She. Luffy laughed. Anyway, let's get my crew's weapons and find a way out of here. I'm thinking going up is our best bet. In what location are we, Momonosuke? The legs commented. Poot, we seem surrounded by steep walls. I could only accomplish a half-dozen steps upward before falling. Momo, your dad's legs are stupid. Hey, the horned creature protested. Well, we've got a scavenger hunt to do first. Then we'll find a way out. Sound good? With no better plan of his own, Momonosuke agreed, dragging the samurais along. You won't get away with this, Nami yelled, Velo backing up toward a metal door. Just wait until Luffy hears about this. You better hope he finds you before I do. He'd knock you out faster. Mommy, help, Master has already dealt with him, Velo said. And you won't make it out of this room alive. Farewell, pirates and marines. And Kaku, do die a dreadfully painful death for me, will you? Ta-ta. She stepped out the door, only to pop her head back in a second later. Ah, I almost forgot. Manias, play. Grassland trumpeted a breehihiha and swung downward, cracking the concrete where Smoker just managed to avoid the attack. The other manias screeched. Whatever body parts they fought with gaining the black sheen of armament hockey. The pirates and allies slowly backed into a circle, keeping their eyes on the horrible creatures. This is not good, Kaku reiterated. Considering Velo's history, I'd hazard to guess these things used to be human. They ain't anymore, Jin grunted. Ain't nothing left who they were. What a sad fate. Velo cannot be allowed to get away with this, Tashigi growled. This breaks so many laws.
That's what you're worried about right now, Nami demanded. That crazy bitch just took my son.
And we need to get through these things to get him back, Sanji commented. Well, there's 6.5 of us and 5 of them. Who wants what? I cannot take the giraffe or the insect. Oh, 'cause you're scared oh bugs, Jin recalled with a small grin. Because I refuse to hit women, stupid monk, they aren't women anymore, Kaku commented. It may be best for me to take the giraffe, elephant, thing, Toshigi trailed off. Giraffepede, Jin suggested. I am not calling it that. Fine, I'll take creature from Black Lagoon. My electricity should be super effective against water animals. I'll take the Murmawatsid, Sanji said, tapping a steel-toed shoe in the ground. That thing looks tough, but I bet I could kick through its armor. I shall defeat the one called Desert, Smoker said, gripping his jute. That leaves the bug, Nami deduced, eyeing the monstrosity. Works for me. Kaku, you're fast and you know her. We can handle these monsters, so go chase down Velo and get my son back. You got it, boss. And what shall I do? Kinemon questioned. Go with Kaku and Nami's response was cut off by the kekekek of the insect beast. The creature lunging toward the group. They scattered as dust fell from the thing's wings, coating the ground in a thin layer of orange dust. Kaku, carrying Kinemon's upper half, moonwalked to the upper level and started trying to force the door open. Be careful, cat burglar, Toshigi warned with a flinch as she faced down the giraffepede, a red mark on her hand as she readjusted her glasses so they rested on top of her head. She might need them to see, but they were nothing but a hindrance in battle. That dust is toxic, but I don't think it's deadly. Good to know, Nami replied, her Klimattack spinning in her hand as heat balls and cool balls floated upward. The many eyes of the insect mania did not move, its bemandibuled mouth opening wide to reveal a sort of small tube at the top of its throat. It let out a resonating scree as spider webbing shot from it. What in Terabang, Nami gasped, diving away from the webs as they splattered over the ground where she'd been standing. I thought spiders had a thorax for that, and they aren't insects. Kikakek, the mania laughed, its forearms rubbing over the scales of its wings, covering its humanoid skin in the toxic dust. I do not want to deal with you, Nami muttered. Get ready for my cyclone tempo. The whirlwind that grew from the navigator's weapon smashed into the monster, the creature screeching as it was blasted back into the wall only to fall on its front. Nami ignored the cries of the other manias as she approached her opponent carefully. It shifted, climbing into all 8 of its limbs as its head snapped upward to stare at her with most of its eyes. The scorpion tail it had rose above the rest of its body before lashing downward. Nami parried the jab with her Klimattack, its venomous stinger missing her shoulder by mere inches. The tail retracted only to lance downward again. Nami rolled to the side and whipped her Klimattack around, wind whirling into a sort of whip she used to lash at the creature. Insect screeched before pushing off the ground, taking to the air again. A great flap of its wings released more dust, Nami swinging her Klimattack to change the cyclone whip into a solid air dome, blocking the toxic powder. The dust it could block, but Nami was unprepared for the mania slamming itself into her barrier, the solid air shattering like glass as the temperature drop that held it together destabilized. The compressed air rushed apart, scattering the dust over the beast. Nami covered her mouth with one hand as the other jabbed the mania in the stomach with her weapon. Bits of the dust that coated it falling on her skin like tiny embers. I don't like this, she hissed, blasting the creature away again. On the other side of the room, Jin was saying something similar as he rolled backward, tentacles covered in armament haki lashing the ground around him. He spread his hands and his electric wings, his own haki growing over both as he tried to backhand, or backwing, any tentacles he could not avoid due to the sheer amount. This reminds me of Don Luffy's Gatling attack, the monk muttered as his beastly opponent let out another blubbering laugh, pulling itself forward on its many appendages to swing its larger claw down. Being on the heavier side, however, the wind-up gave Jin more than enough time to get out of the way before it landed. Spinning around its attack, Jin formed his finger pistols and blasted the creature with a dozen electric bullets. I do not believe this will go your way with your limited arsenal, a certain alter ego whispered in his head. Now if you had access to a certain other power.
Piss off, Rum, Jin muttered. The oceanic amalgamation let out a blubbering, graaw, in response as the shocking pellets met their marks, its human eyes gleaming. Its head lowered, Jin not having the time needed before the much faster stingray tails lashed forward. He reached up, intercepting them with a hand only for blistering pain to stab his palm despite his haki.
Go to damn it. He hissed as his stung hand grasped the tails, the monk refusing to let go. The creature screamed, trying to pull them back even as Jin planted his feet and flapped his wings, using friction and reverse force to give him time to plan. Time was not something Ocean wanted to give him, the being quickly giving up their tug of war to leap toward him, claws raised to smash. Jin gripped the tails and raised his hands in a cross block, sparks flying as his armament contested that of the former human. The force drove Jin downward, his feet digging into the concrete like a nail into a board. Zeus flare, Jin yelled, electricity discharging from his body. Ocean seized up, sparks falling off its body as Jin pulled himself out of the twin holes with a great flap of his wings. Regaining his mobility, he shot forward, punching the creature in the gut as hard as he could. It let out a cry as it flew backward, its tail slipping from Jin's hand before it crashed into the wall. Ocean shook its head and climbed to its feet, one tentacle wiping away a drop of blood from the side of its beak. If it had a conventional mouth, Jin imagined it would be smirking. Nothing can ever be that easy, can it? Jin muttered, cracking his knuckles. Alright, ya lagoon bastard, let's dance. This is not what I thought I would be doing today when I woke up this morning, Toshigi grumbled, the woman throwing slashes with her sword. The blades of air bounced off Grassland's armament, its horned trunk smacking her attacks hither and yon much to Toshigi's ire. It let out a trumpeting, bree-hee-ha, and essentially slithered forward like a wave, its body undulating as its mass moved too, she said, moving Shigur so her blade was parallel to the floor as she closed her eyes. Wisps of black smoke started to materialize over the sword as the giraffapede approached. Its steps shook the ground, alerting Toshigi to its proximity. Her eyes snapped open, Shigur flashing through the air. It caught the creature's trunk between two of the horns, cutting only an inch deep before being stopped by the mania's own haki. Toshigi's eyes widened, the female marine slowly looking up until she made eye contact with the face, madness glinting in the thing's eyes. The trunk wrapped around Toshigi's waist and lifted her. Hey, let me go. The giraffapede did so, throwing the marine captain into the wall with a harsh bang. Toshigi released a gasp with a small cough of blood at the impact, her body falling to the hard concrete as the monster that was her opponent trumpeted. The marine, however, would not have survived in the Grand Line for this long if she was not made of stern stuff, the woman climbing to her feet with a new fire in her eye. Her knuckles whitened as he gripped her sword, renewed determination to win bubbling inside her. I'm sorry, she repeated. I'm sorry this happened to you, that the Marines couldn't stop it, but I won't let you stop me here. I'll put you down and release you from this pain, but know that I will avenge you and every other person Velo ruined the lives of. Breehegehegehegehege, the mania laughed. What did it care for the Marine's words? For all its mind could comprehend, Toshigi was just another tasty-looking morsel like all the rest it had been allowed to devour, only this one had a sharp tool. Toshigi charged forward, dodging left as the giraffapede brought four legs and its trunk down in her path. Shigur carved another gash into the side of the creature's elephant feature. It let out a sort of cry and reared back, opening its soft underbelly. The Marine captain took the chance provided and tried to drive the tip of her weapon into the thing's chest. Sanji flipped into a handstand, kicking away the sharp claws of the Myrmecophagus mania, which he idly decided to call Myrm because trying to think such a long name, much less say it, was too difficult a task for the middle of battle. Myrm screeched at him, giving the world's worst raspberry as all three of its toxic tongues shot out. Sanji pushed, getting himself over the acidic linguas as the monster's saliva melted the floor. His nose crinkled at the smell, the pirate kicking off the air as Myrm swiped at him. Apol shoot, the blonde yelled, driving his leg into the being's shoulder. Its exoskeleton held firm, the powerful attack pressurizing and blasting air away but doing nothing to the strong scales the creature boasted. A hand shot upward, snagging Sanji's ankle between its claws. Oh shit. The mania swung Sanji over its head, slamming him face first into the floor on the other side while indenting the concrete. It did not stop to give Sanji the time he needed to catch his breath, swinging him back over to smack his back into the ground. He spat out a chunk of concrete, only having a moment to breathe before the monster swung him face down again. Stupid mohawk, the pirate growled. I'll cook you like any other meat, Diabol Hambi. Sanji's leg burst into flame, the mania recoiling from the heat as the fire singed some of its fur. Acidic spittle dripped to the concrete at its feet as Sanji crawled out of the Sanji-shaped hole. The blonde pushed himself to his feet, casually pulling a box of cigarettes from his pocket. It was a little crumpled, the man needing to dig a little to find one still in one piece. He fished it out and all but tapped it against his burning leg. God might have made food, he said as the end of the cigarette lit, the chef bringing it to his lips, but the devil created spices. Now let's see what sort of dish I can make out of you. Aatata. Myrm beat its clawed hands against its chest, slapping the ground with its tail. Have it your way, then, Sanji yelled, charging the monster. Smoker broke himself into several different pieces, the mania called desert rushing through him like a bull through a red cape. Its gait was a funny thing, the beast alternating between using four legs and the one incredibly strong leg in the middle, standing on four or one, nothing in between. The head swung around on its long neck, a thick blue tongue waving through the air as its talons dug trenches to slow its momentum. The scorpion claws attached to its back snapped, the black film of armament growing over the keratin there. That same film formed over Smoker's jute, the man's legs dispersing into smoke as he launched himself toward the beast. His weapon crashed against the claws, sparks flying as the two battled for supremacy. The head came in from Smoker's left, fangs flashing around the blue tongue. The Marine released one hand's hold of his weapon, grabbing one fang of the beast tightly enough to stop it in its tracks, The thing's tongue slithered up his arm, leaving a sticky film there. "You're just a nasty thing, aren't you?" Smoker muttered, his arms straining to hold the creature at bay on two fronts. "I don't know what Velo did to you, but—"
Desert blinked, blood shooting from the inner corners of its eyes. The bodily fluids hit an unprepared Smoker in the face, the man recoiling from the surprise attack. The claws pulled at his jute, Smoker's arm coming off in a puff of smoke so his hand could stay on the weapon. Meanwhile, while Smoker's eyes were still closed and his face covered in blood, Desert covered its own face in hockey and smacked him with it, sending most of Smoker's body backward.
"The hell kind of creature are you?" he muttered, wiping away the blood to leave a red stain on his coat sleeve. He eyed the creature with a scowl, the thing giving him the same treatment as it tried to break his weapon to no avail. "Disgusting. Your number is 52, so that must mean there's at least another 51 of you. I'll take your body back to Marine HQ so they can study you and find out what you are."
"Yahahahaha," the thing laughed, licking its lips. It snapped its teeth at the man.
Smokescreen. White smoke exploded from Smoker's body, enveloping Desert. It spun, head twisting around this way, that way, and upside down trying to locate the Marine Commodore. A fist shot from the obscuration, punching the thing in the side. It let out some sort of scrow noise and shifted its focus to the hand already dispersing into smoke. Another fist punched from the other side, knocking the creature off balance. It screeched again, biting at the area with armament-coated fangs. More and more fists came from all directions, forming from the smoke to attack from all sides. Desert jumped, its four primary legs sending it high into the air where its wings flapped downward, holding it aloft while dispersing the smokescreen. Its head mounted on the snake-like neck slithered down, but Smoker was nowhere to be found.
"Atata, you're not the only one that can fly." The monster screeched as Smoker's weight fell on its back, wrenching his weapon from its claws, grip and driving the sea prism stone end between two of Desert's humps. The pair hit the floor with a heavy crash, the mania's head wiping around to stare at him as the claws snapped. Blood shot from its eyes once more, but Smoker was already moving, leaving the diversion to splatter over Desert's back half.
"You might think I'm weak considering my rank," Smoker said, his voice coming from everywhere and nowhere around the beast. "But I regularly duel with vice admirals. It is not weakness that has kept me from promotion." "Atatata." Desert reared back, swiping at Smoker with hockey-coated front talons. The Marine beat its attacks away with his jute, simultaneously having to dodge the being's lunging bites. Judging by the pattern on the neck, this creature was part diamondback, so one bite could be enough to render him unconscious in the best-case scenario. "It is not often I say this," he muttered, "but now would be a good time for more pirates," Ace yelled, his voice bouncing down the metal hallways as he struggled in the mad scientist's grip. "Mommy." "Shut up, brat," Velo ordered with a firm shake. "Your dreadful wailing is getting on my nerves." "Let me go, mean evil lady." Ace's tiny fists beat against Velo's reptilian arm. "I'm not scared of you. My mommy and daddy and aunts and uncles are gonna kick your ass."
Velo stopped, swinging Ace around to shove his back into a metal wall. It was not forceful enough to leave any lasting mark on the young boy, but it was none too soft and the cold steel nipped at the child's skin despite his coat. Velo leaned in, glaring with her yellow eyes. "You really must stop with that dreadful language of yours," the woman said, a gravelly growl in the back of her throat. One of her eyes rotated, a red glow coming from within the pupil. "Such is very unprofessional and master, and I insist you avoid such vulgar."
"Bitch," Ace interrupted, tugging at his kidnapper's lab coat sleeve. "Bastard, meanie, sleazy McGee, poopyhead." "Now that is uncalled for," Velo growled, pulling Ace back an inch before shoving his back against the wall. He gasped, his little hands tugging at her clawed fingers in vain. "You will be silent and you will do as I say, or the consequences of your choices will be rather dreadful." "I don't have to listen to you," Ace denied. "You're just a mean evil scientist-y lady who works for the bad guys." "Oh, you poor, innocent soul," Velo cooed with a lick of her lips. "You don't get it, do you?" "Get what?" Velo smiled, her mouth full of sharpening teeth and that red glint flashing in her eye. "We're all bad guys here. Me, Master, Monet, my manias, our moronic minions, and all the rest of your little family of pirates. Even the Marines have their fair share of dreadful atrocities to their name despite trying to be the big brother of the whole world. No, child. The only innocent one here in any kind of capacity is you." "No way," Ace yelled. "Mommy and Daddy and my family are the bestest, they aren't bad." "Oh, they aren't?" Velo gave a sardonic laugh. "Why don't you tell that to all the people your family have killed over the years?" "They haven't, but they have," Velo interrupted, pulling away from the wall to spin with her own maniac glee. Psychiatry was always a hobby of hers, and her knowledge of the realm only made torturing the sane so much more fun. Not that she wasn't sane herself, but she had politely dubbed her own mental state as selectively unwithheld. The Straw Hat Pirates. It's a dreadfully boring name if you ask me, But your family have found a way to take something as innocuous as a straw hat and make it the sort of thing laymen whisper about with fear. There are some places in the world where no one will even buy a straw hat for fear they will be mistaken as your father. Laymen are so dreadfully stupid, don't you think? And why? What could your pure, innocent family have possibly done to earn such dreadful infamy? Nothing. They are murderers, child, Velo hissed with a grin. It is kill or be killed in this place we call the Grand Line, and your crew have carved a dreadfully bloody path through it. Maybe not as bloody a path as some other supernovas, but they have their own body count. Tell me, boy, have your parents told you about Eni's lobby or Marineford? What's that? The boy questioned, his fear all but palpable to the older woman. She was turning his own childlike drive for knowledge against him, not that he had any concept of such. Those are the names of places your parents destroyed, Velo said, her smile too wide. Ace's struggles slowed to a stop, his wide eyes staring at the woman in shock. Reduced to rubble and dreadful stains of gore. Hundreds of Marines dead or missing in both instances, billions of berry and property damage, families mourning the losses of fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, husbands, and wives, all because your dreadful family couldn't hold back their desire to give the world government a black eye. Do you understand what I'm telling you, child? You're lying, Ace accused. My family'd never. But they have, the mad scientist interrupted. She wasn't lying either, for she had read the totally accurate accounts of the Straw Hats' exploits in the papers. They have since you've been alive. How many of those Neo-Marines do you think survived your dreadful little pirate war before the real Marines got there? How many do you think were dead before then? How many had people back home that will never see them again? I wonder if any died by your own hand. Tears leaked from Ace's eyes as he questioned his own thoughts. He had poked a lot of Neo-Meanies with his really sharp stick after all. Stop. But I suppose that's just the sort your father recruited. Roronoa Zoro was a bounty hunter, and one of the most lethal if the posters are to be believed. The Pirate Hunter, they call him, an apt moniker considering how many heads he brought the Marines as just heads before joining Straw Hat. And the Electric Demon is a man who first had a title of Man-Demon. He was so dreadfully deadly and ruthless that people refused to believe he could possibly be human. Stop it, Ace begged. And Nico Robin. What about Auntie Robin Sensei? She's left a trail of bodies in her wake since she was 8 years old. Velo's smirk was toxic, practically dripping venom into Ace's ears. It started with the destruction of Ohara, her home island wiped off the map all because of her. And every organization she joined afterward fell apart with her as the only survivor. The longest she stayed with any was 4 years, and her crew is slowly reaching that mark. Why do you think that is, boy? Ace stayed quiet, sniffling, his cheeks wet. Your family are just as dreadfully evil as the rest of us, child. Well, maybe amoral is a better word, and it's only a matter of time before you join us in dreadful selfishness. I'll never be like you, Ace whimpered. Of course not, the scientist said. You're already worse. Such a dreadful child in the eyes of the world. After all, you have a bounty when I don't. To the world, you're already a little devil waiting to destroy it. Eventually, you'll succumb to the pressure and become exactly that. It's only a matter of time.
Ace made a sound that no letters could explain, his tears flowing freely now. Seeing his spirit broken, Velo held back her own smile as she carried the now demoralized toddler in her grip, relishing in the faint laughter of her manias in the distance as she imagined how beneficial Ace would be to her research when she inevitably poached him from the master of this frozen wasteland.
After all, there was a place far away with more test subjects no one would even miss just waiting for a return. Velo, a voice yelled, ruining the good doctor's moment. She turned, her glowing eyes zeroing in on Kaku, forcing the door to the Mania lab open. Kaku? Ace questioned. He can't even die correctly, Velo hissed, driving her free hand into a pocket of her lab coat. Leaving the others behind to die, Kaku? How dreadfully like you. Unhand that child, Kinnaman shouted, the pair forcing the door open, unmuffling the laughter of the Manias. I don't think I will. Velo pulled a remote from her pocket and pressed a button, lights starting to flash red throughout the hallway. 4 separate steel doors slammed shut between her and the ex-agent and samurai. So dreadfully rude, but that should delay them. Come, child. Velo fled down the hallway, doors closing behind her, even as Kaku and Kinnaman smashed the first of many. I thought you guys were supposed to be the super strongest Marines, Frankie yelled, his voice echoing over the now trampled and crushed snow. Come on. Our cook could lift that by himself without any hands, but you all are struggling as a group? The group of Marine shipwrights questioned, the burning ember inside them that demanded they prove the pirates wrong reigniting at the metalman's works. They redoubled their efforts, pushing their sword the water along the snowy trench they and the children had dug just for such a purpose. Just you watch, pirate. That's most of Sunny's hull, Amy muttered at the cyborg's side, the woman standing on Sunny's separated railing so she could still hold the ferry's dismembered manifestation. The Marines wheezed in the cold air before them, the men straining to pull Sunny's hull with her ropes or push her along to lighten the burden for those ahead. each couple of inches prompting the kids from the biscuit room to run in and brush away the snow that the movement piled up at the bottom rim. Sanji's crazy strong, but I don't think he's that strong. Maybe, Frankie shrugged, but they don't know that. And it's super effective, don't you think? I guess, the blonde shrugged. Sure, she could have helped by lightening the mass of the pieces to make them weigh less, but despite her words, she felt that familiar schadenfreude at watching the Marines hard at work and struggling. It was always fun to watch other people sweat and pant, after all. They're making pretty good time, all things considered. That's true, Frankie confirmed, looking over the reconstruction process. I still want to punch that warlord in his super smug face for what he did. But ordering these Marines around is making putting Sunny back together so much easier, and it's keeping the kiddos busy. Well, when they aren't crying to Chopper about splinters, that is, the woman chuckled. She glanced over at the line of teary-eyed children that had formed before their humanoid doctor, each one of those boys holding one hand in another. I'm surprised by the effectiveness of Brooks' music, though.
He's had a long time to work on it, Frankie nodded, tilting his head to listen to the jaunty tune that drifted through the air. He's even learned how to essentially hypnotize people with it. Don't ask me how that works, but it's definitely been a super boon.
Heave-ho, some of kids chanted, the proto-giants and the regular kids working together to pull the masts through the snow, all with Frankie's apprentices at the head. Heave-ho, heave-ho. Are you actually going to teach them anything? Amy wondered. Sure, the man replied. It won't hurt anything, and the world could always use a few more super shipwrights trained by a master. Marines fell to the cold earth, each panting breath a puff of white fog in the air as Sunny's hull reached its destination beside the stern, half a meter separating the two. Super good job, guys, Frankie commented, stepping up to the tired men. Amy followed him, carrying Sunny's railing. Just a little more before we start moving the bow and the figurehead. The Marines replied in tandem. No one ever said putting ships back together would be easy.
Now watch and learn. He sent a wink to Amy, the blonde rolling her eyes at their little scheme to convince these Marines that they were stronger than was the truth. Ropes shot through the rigging of the two parts as Sunny did her part while Frankie positioned himself to push the hull into the stern. Amy ran a hand over Sunny's side while everyone was focused on Frankie, decreasing the hull's mass. Frankie, super push.
The ropes tightened and the actual flesh muscles on Frankie's back bulged as the man and ship in tandem forced her parts back into place with a thunk. Sunny let out an audible sigh of relief when she reconnected, Amy floating upward to replace her railing. I'm coming back together. The Klabouterman cheered, manifesting to show everyone that her legs and stomach were in one piece once more. Her upper torso and head were still separated, however, the fairy holding her head up in her hands. This adventure of ours is just not normal, Amy grinned with a shake of her head, the blonde walking to stand alongside the Klabouterman where she sat and proceeded to run her fingers through the fairy's manifesting hair. Not that I'd have it any other way. Oh, finally, a voice yelled, every person along the shore turning while readying any weapons they had. Something that looked like a two-headed shadow faded into view through the snow, slowly coming into focus until the light revealed it to be Grace and Billy on Zoro's shoulders. It's about time. I'm freezing my tail off. Wah, fine, you're freezing my tail off. Details, hey, details. Wah, the hell happened here? Zoro questioned, his voice too high as he surveyed the situation with his one good eye. Who did this to Sunny? Wah, Billy quacked. Grace. Amy vanished from her place atop the deck, reappearing with a shave to drag her adoptive sister off the swordsman's shoulder and pull her into a spinning hug. You don't know how worried I've been. You're covered in burns. What happened? There's been a sort of mix-up, Zoro muttered, rubbing the back of his head in a very un-Zoro-like fashion. What? The blonde blinked. So, who wants to explain? Zoro questioned. Wah, you can't explain, Angry Moss, Grace said. You're a gigafowl. Wawa, do not call me that. I am not an overgrown chicken, Angry Moss. I guess I have to explain, Zoro muttered as he pressed a hand into his forehead. Explain what? Amy demanded. So, Zoro began. Did a guy with a white hat and a black coat do this? He gestured to Sunny's many parts. Yeah, Amy questioned, now leery about the situation. Why?
Well, we ran into him, too, he said. He managed to, body swap us. Zoro gestured to himself. I'm Grace. Billy's in my body. And that means Zoro's in Billy's body.
Amy blinked. Once. Twice. Kaya ha 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 ha. She laughed, falling into the snow to giggle and roll. Zoro's in a duck. A duck. It's too good. I can't breathe. Kaya ha 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 ha. Oh Goda. What would Sanji say in Terabang Kaya ha 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 ha? I am a gigafowl. Grace Billy interjected with crossed arms. I'm not just some common pond duck. Wah, Billy Zoro muttered with narrowed eyes. Big sister, this is serious. Zoro Grace yelled, stomping a foot. The image was so out of character for Zoro that it only managed to reignite Amy's giggles. Big sister. At least you're having a good time. Female smells sweet, Grace Billy frowned, scanning the area as he was trained to do. What happened here? Yo-ho-ho, Brook chuckled, approaching the group of his shipmates. We had a bit of a run-in with the local warlord. Law, if I remember his name correctly, which seems a touch ironic considering his legal position. Law? Zoro Grace echoed, raising a hand to rub her chin. I know I've heard that name before. If they're a warlord, could you mean Trafalgar Law?
He's one of the supernovas, Amy nodded, coming out of her laughing fit. Mama wanted to recruit him, but he never came into her territory and then he took 100 pirate hearts to the Marines to get the title of warlord. That kind of soured her opinion of the guy.
Mama? Grace Billy questioned with a tilt of his head, something that didn't quite look right with human anatomy. Sorry, Big Mom, Amy corrected, force of habit. Great, Zoro Grace muttered with a roll of their eye. We need to catch this guy alive or we're gonna be stuck like this. I don't know about you, sis, but you laughing at Zoro as a duck for the rest of his life is not worth me having to walk around with this thing between my legs forever. And I certainly don't want Coby to see me like this. Billy Zoro's face paled behind the feathers while Amy did her best to hold back a laugh at the image. Well, I suppose I now have a question I never thought I'd say, Brooke commented, turning to Grace Billy. Billy, may I see your pan? Not on your unlife, Zoro Grace screeched, punching the skeleton. Mr. Luffy, I'm not sure about this. Have you got a better idea? Well, no, I didn't think so. Still, I don't know if punching the wall as you climb is the best idea. It's worked before. It has in Terabang. Luffy only chuckled to himself as the pink knot and eel followed in his path. The pirate captain had all the tools of his crewmates that he'd managed to back, such including Nami's perfect clean attack, Koby's 2 swords Hashokusha and Imono, Amy's parasol, Mary's corundum hammers, Usopp's kabuto, and Jin's tonfa. This climb was his 3rd attempt to get out of the trash chute, each of his previous attempts having been better than the last. His trail was marked by serious indents in the metal walls, the pirate having to coat his hands with armament before punching the wall to create each handhold. A determined smile refused to waver as, with a bang, he created another such hold and pulled himself up a little farther. Father, stop struggling, Momonosuke ordered, turning his eyes downward to the disembodied legs he was tasked with carrying up their path. I'm afraid I will drop you, again.
Kinemon's legs froze, one calf having Momonosuke's long, scaly body wrapped around it in a circle so he could still utilize all 4 of his limbs. It was all he could do to drag himself upward each time Luffy lengthened their path, only the sweet promise of freedom urging him forward.
Poot. The legs farted. I still do not understand what has happened to you, Momonosuke. By what sorcery is this possible? It's not source code. Luffy yelled down. He means magic, the zone clarified. It's not that, either, it's a devil fruit, Poot. I cannot hear you despite my questions. I have lived it, but I simply cannot believe it, Momonosuke muttered. How could a fruit of any sort change an individual's entire physical structure? Because it's a zone fruit, Luffy replied. Geez, I didn't know people can be that stupid.
I'm not stupid. Momonosuke shot back. It's not that hard to understand, though. Luffy said. You eat a devil fruit and you get a power but can't swim. And if you eat 2, you die. And if you fall in the water, someone needs to save you or you die. That's just how it works, Momo.
And I'm telling you that doesn't make any sense and my name is Momonosuke, Momonosuke yelled. A piece of the wall came loose under one of Luffy's hands, the young father gripping harder with the other as he shifted to the side. Momonosuke was more vocal with his worry, his claws scratching at the steel as he just barely managed to stay on the wall. Please be careful, Mr. Luffy. Bang! Luffy punched the wall again. What? Never mind. Hey Momo, do you feel that? Luffy asked, causing the zone behind him to hug the wall and try to focus on whatever the rubber man could be talking about. There's a breeze? He breathed, air brushing past his face. So there's an exit up here? Of course there is, Luffy replied. If you go in, there's a way to go out, even if it means you have to make one. Poot. I feel like an accurate statement was just made. The samurai's legs begrudgingly farted. Momonosuke's nose crinkled at the response. That sounds like something many say something father would say. Sounds like the rest of your dad's a cool guy, if a bit stupid. Luffy laughed. I think we're almost there, we just have to. Luffy's hand grabbed the newest handhold only for the metal beneath to warp and bend. Luffy's eyes widened as he lost traction, falling backward.
Quote! Momonosuke screamed as the falling body of the pirate got bigger, Luffy's bendy scapula meeting Momonosuke's face. The knot and eel unraveled, man, half man, and zone all going into freefall for the 3rd time. Momonosuke clawed at the air, wisps of cloud forming under his palms but not enough to even slow his fall. I blame you, Mr. Luffy.
I guess that's fair. Luffy laughed. All 3 hit the closest trash heap with a crash, old food and rusted machine parts flying away as they were compressed under the force. But we got farther that time. And now we have to start over again, Momonosuke yelled. Aren't you worried about your crew? Sure I am, Luffy admitted as he got to his feet, But I know they're all really strong and can handle anything this island throws at them. Come on, Momo. My name is Momonosuke. One more climb, then we'll be out of here. Shilolololo. Caesar Clown laughed, watching the monitors that showed the Mania Labs arena and the fight happening within. Sure, the pirates and marines were putting up a decent fight, but the mad scientist was certain that the Mania's durability would win out over the humans despite whatever devil fruit powers they may or may not have. He didn't really care if the Manias won or lost. They were Velo's main project and not his own, but watching them in action was always an entertaining distraction when he felt like one. Shilololo.
Monet watched the screen at his side, her burns from the explosion earlier bandaged and healing quickly on account of her logia powers. Would she have been able to heal them instantly? She would have, but whatever explosion the interloper had caused was able to damage her severely. Such was the match against snow and fire, Caesar supposed, but if she didn't want to fight until she was fully healed, they had plenty of other pawns to use first.
Two of them are chasing Velo, the harpy observed, her eyes on another camera. It's going to take a while to fix all those doors they're breaking. Let them break a few, Caesar waved. It's not like we can't have the materials sent to us, and it will tire them out before they get taken down. Are you certain about this, Master? The vedette questioned. Those two are the samurai, Foxfire, Kinnaman and an ex-Cypher Pole agent. I know Velo has gotten quite skilled since her last run-in with the law, but do you really think she can outrun the pair of them? One is ex-Cypher Pole, Caesar blinked. Yes, Monet nodded, one slim finger indicating the long-nosed blonde on the camera. Him? According to the papers, he's been labeled as Spring Wind Kaku. You really should keep up with the news more.
That's one of the reasons I keep you around, Caesar waved off. He refocused, this time on the man as he used tempest kicks to slice a solid steel door into pieces. If he has government training, then I would love to acquire whatever secrets he might know. I'm certain with his information, I could easily blackmail the world government into leaving me alone, or at least give us more breathing room. Worst comes to worst, he would make an excellent lab rat.
Is anyone more than a lab rat to you? Monet asked. Well, there are a few, Caesar admitted. No one here, however, and I'm not exactly fond of those who are more than that. Now then, I'm certain these manias of Velos won't be enough to defeat all of our unwanted guests. Monet, go prepare our other nasty surprises for them. All of them? Prepare them all, Caesar nodded. I don't think we'll need them all, however. We'll start with the ones that are easier to manage afterward and work our way up. Something flashed on one of the screen behind the man, Monet's gaze on it dragging his attention there.
The image was nothing but smoke drifting by the camera, said smoke slowly clearing as it was sucked into the ventilation. Behind the smoke were those whom they had subdued previously, one coughing at the particles in the air around them. Coby, Robin, Usopp, and Mary waved their arms through the dust, clearing their vision so they could take in their surroundings, while the long-nosed man tried to hack up a lung. Caesar's eyes widened at the image, gritting his teeth. How? He demanded, grabbing the sides of the screen as if it would give him the information he so desired. They were supposed to be drugged as well as bound with sea prism stone. They were, Monet replied. I saw to it myself, but it appears we still underestimated them. Their recovery is leaps ahead of the average pirate that comes through here. Mary said something on the screen with a laugh, punching the air as Coby and Usopp nodded along while Robin giggled to herself. Her legs seemingly mostly healed from the puncture she had received during their fight with the dragon. Not that Caesar knew of such. Monet had seen the battle and informed him, but that did not mean that either understood the exemplary recovery speed most of the Straw Hats were able to manage. Well, it appears we will need more direct methods to ensure they do not interfere with our work, Caesar commented. Monet? We still have a few of Velo's earlier experiments, she suggested. The ones from the petri dishes she used to see which animals' lineage factors wouldn't hamper each other too much. And while they defeated the Red Dragon already, we still have Vegapunk's other one here in the lab. I believe you called them nasty surprises a minute ago? Yes, that should be enough, Caesar muttered, but I do not want to bank anything like this on should. Monet, go ensure that at least one of them does not escape at all, am I clear? Of course, Master, the harpy replied, offering a small bow. If that is all, I will be on my way. Taking her leave, Monet saw herself out, her thin bird legs carrying her down the hallway and around a bend. As if in response to her distance from the scientist, the transponder snail she kept at her waist began to rain, the woman swinging one wing around to answer it. Hello? A deep voice questioned from the snail. Who might this be? Monet questioned. Your liaison for the cart above them all. Is this supposed to be a joke? Maybe. Monet took to the air, alighting on a pipe set into the wall high above. Once she was settled, she carefully pulled the snail from its place at her side and held it up with her wings. It is good to hear your voice after so long, Virgo, she said, keeping her voice low. I feel similar sentiments, the man on the other side of the call replied. What seems to be the current situation on Punk Hazard? It's a bit chaotic at the moment, the vedette answered. We are currently being invaded by the forces of both the Straw Hat Pirates as well as the Marines of G5.
and they seem to be working together. Law is still on our side as far as I can tell, but I don't trust him to remain so much longer. The children Caesar has been experimenting on with his gigantification serum have escaped as well because of the pirates. That is chaotic, Virgo agreed after a moment's thought. I am due to arrive soon. Which actions should I take that would be most beneficial? Recover my heart for me, Monet told him. After Law arrived, everyone in a powerful position under Caesar had to surrender theirs for his peace of mind. I'm growing tired of this place and am ready to return home. I think Caesar may have outlived his usefulness. Do you know where they are being kept? I don't, she admitted. Somewhere only Caesar can normally reach, I suspect. He's not just carrying them around like he did at first. That got too troublesome for him. There are very few places I haven't gone around here, however, so I can tell you where they aren't. She listed off a comprehensive list of what areas to avoid and which places she suggested searching first. Understood, Virgo nodded, the snail mimicking his movements. Only a little longer, Monet. You're eager to get home and I know the young master and your sister feel the same, but we need to keep up this ruse until the very end. We cannot break at the final stretch. I'll be there in half an hour. I await you eagerly. The snail went to sleep with a soft chaw as a smile wider than any punk hazard had seen from the birdwoman before stretched over her face. Finally. Sister, I'm coming home. Around the corner and down the hall, Law stepped into Caesar's room, none the wiser at Monet's most recent call. Hey, I'm back, he said, casting a half-hearted wave at Caesar's back before dropping onto a couch. What'd I miss? We have located the boy, Caesar told him, giving the warlord an unimpressed look. Velo was successful where you failed, Law. So, she's got the kid now? The man questioned. He shrugged after a moment. Whatever works, yeah. It's not like I could get something if it wasn't where we expected. You are very relaxed for having failed your mission, Law, the island's master muttered, his eyes narrowing. TTY starting to wane? Of course not, Law waved. I'm just as loyal as I ever was. Speaking of, are you sure you didn't want me to try to get the kids while I was down there? I could have easily gotten them into the facility with my room. No, that wasn't necessary, Caesar waved. The children will return on their own soon enough, and cause trouble for the Straw Hats in the process. Have you anything else to report? Ah, I did get this for you on my way back. The captain of the Heart Pirates reached into his coat, digging around for a moment before pulling out a blue, opaque cube with an organ inside. He tossed it to the man, Caesar almost fumbling it. To whom does this belong? He asked, studying the rather large heart. They did all look the same, after all. That? Law blinked with a deadly smile. To the pirate hunter, of course. We're almost there, Sonny, Frankie cheered as the smaller of their ship's two masts locked into place. As it did, the Marines and children relaxed, half of them flopping over into the snow and groaning. Come on, we super aren't done yet. But we're tired, Teach, one of the boys complained. I thought you all were going to be my super apprentices. The cyborg teased. How can you learn from me if you get super tired so easily? Besides, now that Zoro's back, he's laying you all to waste. Wah, oh, right, Frankie chuckled. Totally forgot. Sorry, Swordbird bro? I'm still so confused, Amy muttered with a shake of her head as Grace and Zoro's body admired the muscles she had access to, all while Zoro in Billy's body, who had shucked off Billy's saddle as soon as he could but still wore the copper claws, continued to quietly mope to the side, glaring at all the things he couldn't do without thumbs. Billy, still in Grace's body and slightly bandaged from the burns they had received before the encounter with Law, was utterly preoccupied with picking things up using thumbs beside Chopper's portable lab table. This, in turn, only soured Zoro's mood further. The only thing that would have made it worse for him would be if Sanji were present to point and laugh at his misfortune. I mean, I knew Law had some crazy powers because of his devil fruit, but swapping people's bodies? Hey, there's nothing to it, Frankie insisted. We just had to kick his ass and force him to put them back to normal. Not like we haven't done something super similar before. Have we? Amy blinked. Well, I guess we could try to compare Moria's shadow stealing with this, but I wouldn't say it's an exact match. At least then we were reasonably sure knocking him silly would fix the problem automatically. I'm not so sure this is that simple. Maybe not, but we'll get through it all the same, Frankie grinned, stepping forward toward his temporary workforce. Amy, again, questioned how he could be walking around the snow with bare feet, but he was a cyborg, so they probably weren't his original feet anyway. Alright you super slackers, break time's over. Uig, the majority of the group groaned, slowly pulling themselves to their feet. One, however, did not, a giant boy with blonde hair rolling over to clutch at his stomach. What's the matter, Sind? Frankie questioned, making his way toward one of his self-appointed apprentices, stomachache. Why yeah, Teach, the boy panted. I can't move, it hurts so bad. Come on, kid. Let's get you to Chopper. Frankie reached forward, dragging one of Sind's arms around his shoulders to all but drag the boy toward Chopper's station. Mocha, another of the giant kids, a girl with curly, black hair, took Sin's other arm with worry swimming in her eyes. The human reindeer didn't seem to notice their approach, the doctor staring at a vial of purple liquid with something akin to terror and denial. "Yo, Doc. We super got a patient over here." Chopper blinked, turning toward them. His eyes widened as he comprehended what he was seeing, the reindeer hopping from his seat and running over. "Lay him on his side in the recovery position. That'll make it easiest for me to check his vitals." "Sure thing." Frankie gave Mocha a quick, "Thank you," before laying Sin down on his side. Chopper squirming his way between the boy's appendages to press his stethoscope against his torso. "Is something super wrong, Doc?" "I'm afraid it might be," Chopper replied. "Mocha, what do you children usually do around this time of day?" "Well," the girl muttered, her eyes squinting as she tried to think. "We hadn't had our daily checkups yet when Big Sis Nami and the others got us out. I think we'd be about done with those." "And what usually happens during those checkups?"
"Well, nothing really," Mocha answered. "They bring us in one by one and ask how we're feeling. You know, growing pains or fevers and stuff like that."
Sind muttered something. "What was that?" Frankie questioned. "We get candy," Sind repeated, a little louder. After the checkups." "Oh yeah, the candy." Mocha nodded. "When we're done, they give us this really cool candy. It's swirly and tasty and smokes a little, so we like to pretend we're dragons." Chopper froze. "It smokes?" he echoed. Mocha nodded. "You're sure? Is the smoke purple?" "How do you know that, Mr. Reindeer?" "Shit," the reindeer doctor hissed. "You've been drugged. The master's been drugging you all." "Drugged?" Frankie gasped, the rest of the pirates and marines gathering around to hear the explanation more clearly. "What's happening to them?" the present leader of the marines demanded. "Did you pirates do this?" "Please," Amy scoffed, unable to hold back her sass at such a ridiculous accusation. "If we did, it would be affecting you all, too." "Then what is it?" "There's a chemical known as NHC-10, Chopper explained. "It's a stimulant, but it's also highly addictive. So addictive, in fact, that only a select few doctors around the world are allowed to work with it. I know this because Doctorine is one of them. It took her 8 years to get through the application process." "NHC-10? Zoro Grace blinked, eyes widening. "Wait, you don't mean imidazine hydrocarbide, do you?" "You know about it, Grace? I'm a chemist. Of course I know about it. I also know how dangerous it is. I might not care about the world government's rules and laws, but even I wasn't willing to touch that stuff even with a whole lab under my command. It's extremely reactive, unstable at the best of times, and toxic in even medium-sized doses. My book actively discourages working with it unless you're approved for it. If it's in these kids' systems, then we have a serious problem." Brooke blinked, or he would have if he still had eyelids. "Care to explain it to those of us without knowledge of chemistry?" "This is one of those things where the knowledge best remains secret," Z Grace said. "Luckily, I should be able to counter it with," she trailed off, sucking in a breath. "Fuck." "Grace," Amy admonished. "I don't have my powers, big sis," Z Grace said, rounding on the blonde while chewing on her lip. In any other circumstance, Zoro calling Amy big sis with such an expression would be funny. Here, the humor was easily overridden by the panic from the information Z Grace had just spouted. "Wait, but Billy," Chopper tried. "Has my body but doesn't know how to use my devil fruit," Z Grace replied. "I have my knowledge, but I've practically a book here. I've got information but no way to implement it, goddamn it." "See candy," Sind muttered. Please, give me candy." "We can't," Chopper told him. "The candy they've been giving you all is toxic."
"Is that why we've been getting bigger?" Mocha questioned.
"What do you mean?" Z Grace asked. "You mean you aren't natural giants?" "No," Mocha answered with a shake of her head. "Sind, me, and everyone else were all normal before we got here. We thought the disease that the master told us we had was making us all get big. So that's what they've been using the NHC-10 candy." Sind roared, throwing everyone away from him. His eyes were bloodshot, appoint his lips. "I need it. Give it to me. Give me candy." "Candy," another of the giant children, a girl with brown hair, echoed. She looked up slowly, her eyes, too, going bloodshot. "It hurts, I need it." "Allie," Mocha cried, her voice audibly straining as the same symptoms of withdrawal started to eat at her own insides. She grimaced, clutching at her stomach as the rest of the children, one by one, began to succumb to their unknown addictions. Dr. Chopper, help us." "I can't," Chopper cried from his place in the snow. "And not without time. If Grace had her powers, it would be so much simpler, but because she's in Zoro's body."
"Candy." The children starting going berserk, ally smashing Chopper's portable lab table as Sind and some of the other children started trying to pick up and throw Sunny's figurehead. Thankfully, her atom wood was too heavy for them to move alone even with their enhanced strength, but that was no comfort to the pirates and marines that needed to dodge stomping feet and flailing fists.
"What do we do?" the marine with the bucket hat on his head demanded, diving away from where he would have been stomped into a pancake. "We can't attack them, they're kids." We'll need to find a way to painlessly subdue them, Chopper shouted. Easier said than super done, Frankie commented. I got nothing without my powers, Z Grace yelled. I can't use her powers, G Billy added. Wah, B Zoro quacked. He sped over, grabbing Wado Ichimonji in his beak. He pulled it from its sheath, black smoke starting to swirl around the blade. No, Amy cried, coating her own hand in hockey to grab the blade and stop the sword's duck. You'll hurt the kids, even with the blunt side. Wah wah wah. We don't care what the blunt side's called, G Billy yelled, narrowly avoiding another grabbing hand. Sind got a hold of Frankie, shaking him like prankster might do to a cola before throwing him. The cyborg hit the side of Sunny's hull with a cough. Someone do something, a Marine screamed, his face inches away from the salivating mouth of one of the giant children. Yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho ho. The familiar melody drifted over the shoreline and through the snow, slow and calm in a way that nothing else could be. Two voices sang together, both rather high but one at a greater pitch. A violin, adagio and legato, accompanied soft guitar as the tune swelled. Yo ho ho, yo ho ho ho.
That's Brooke, Grace muttered, using Zoro's strength to keep Sind at bay as best she could, but who's the other voice?
Z Grace stumbled as Sind, as if in a trance, released their struggle and started walking toward where he'd thrown Frankie. Worried, she studied the other children, and some Marines, who were doing the same. Gather up all of the crew, it's time to ship out Bink's brew, sea wind blows, to where Hunoa. The waves will be our guide, or across the ocean's tide. Rays of sunshine far and wide, the birds, they sing of cheerful thing in circles passing by. I don't get it, one of the Marines muttered. Bink's sake is a funeral dirge? That's not a dirge, Amy replied as she realized her crewmate's intentions. That's a lullaby. Following the entranced crowd, the pirate and Marines reached the point where the falling snow did not obscure the Sunny. Upon her deck stood two figures, the first tall and thin with a violin held to his bony chin, and the other shorter by comparison, Brooke's guitar in her hazy arms and her head resting on the railing because her figurehead had yet to be reattached. Whoa, G Billy muttered as the crowd started to sway in time with the music. I'll admit, I didn't expect that. Mocha, either the least addicted to the NHC-10 or the one with the strongest will to resist, was the first to succumb to sleep, a smile on her lips. The smaller kids followed as the combined voices of Brooke and Sunny lulled them down from their craving-induced rage. Sind was the last, his huge body causing a small rumble as he toppled, snoring lightly. After all is said and done, we'll all end up as skeletons, so spread your tail from dawn till dusk upon the foamy seas. Yo ho ho, yo ho ho ho. The tune slowed to a stop, Brooke and Sunny looking over their work. It was not only the children that had been affected, a quarter of the Marines and Frankie snoozing away in the snow. Yo ho ho ho, Brooke laughed, lowering his violin as the music's echo died away. That was excellent, Sunny. I just had to do what Mary said and focus on the skill I wanted, the Klabouterman replied, her headless, mostly corporeal body handing the skeleton his guitar. Once we got started, it just felt natural. Like I'd been playing for years. That would probably be because I have been playing for years, Brooke smiled, as much as a skeleton with no lips could smile. Anyway, I say, it warms my heart to have such a wonderful playing partner once again. Ah, not that I have a heart to warm, much less in the snow. Yo ho ho ho. Rahahaha, Sunny agreed, launching forward to hug the undead musician. She let go quickly, reaching up to scratch the back of her head only to realize it was still detached at the moment. She chuckled. Sorry, Brooke. I didn't mean to hug you out of nowhere. Not sure whose influence that was. You needn't concern yourself about it, Sunny, the old skeleton waved off. Though there is something I would like to ask you. What is it? Could you please show me your panties? Damn it, Brooke, Sunny hissed, doing her best to keep her voice down lest she wake the kids. We were having a nice moment, and I don't even need to wear clothes, yet. Well, that's ruined, Z Grace huffed as Amy gained a fire in her eye, armament hockey condensing around her fist as she seriously considered knocking Brooke's soul out of his body. Again. Only her little sister's act of putting Zoro's hand on her shoulder held the blonde back, and not as well as Grace's normal body would have. I'm gonna kill him, the chocolatier swore. Easy, big sis. You can't kill a skeleton that's already dead. I can damn well try, though. I think we have more important matters to discuss, Chopper offered, gesturing at the sleeping children with his hoof. How are we going to counteract the NHC-10 in their systems without access to Grace's chem powers? I can try to work on them, G Billy suggested. We have time and need, so there's no time like the present. As unreliable as it is, I'm afraid you're right, Chopper commented. Billy, Grace, shall we go in and get started? Maybe with a little more practice, I can copy Wind's four-sword style that he told me about, Coby commented as the last of the dust from the broken door cleared away. Maybe that's what I need to finally give Zoro-sensei an even fight. I mean, it didn't quite work out for Wind last time, but I've got way more experience with my fruit. And unlike Wind back then, I won't have a reason to surrender midway through. Do not forget that you are not the only swordsman who has grown stronger in our separation, Coby, Robin warned. You may possess unparalleled observation, but Zoro still has far more experience than you do. I didn't say anything about winning, the Rosset pointed out. I just want to be able to push Zoro-sensei to the point where he'll be breathing hard. That's sort of my goal for the future. And my goal for the future, Usopp muttered, is to survive this freaking island. Yeah, let's get going, Mary agreed. We've got some serious fights ahead and I'm all for dishing out some recompense for that master guy's underhanded tactics. Serious fights? The sniper stuttered. Are you sure? Oh yeah, Mary nodded with a grin. I can feel it in my bones, shivering me timbers. That, Coby started. Nope. I don't want to ask. You're as much a battle maniac as Captain Luffy and I don't want to go anywhere near Klabouterman physiology. Well, you see, Mary started with a smirk, when it comes to a Klabouterman's timbers. Come along, all, Robin urged. It would behoove us all to travel as a single group as Oons are in the same general direction. We may continue to converse as we travel. I'll carry you, Robin, Coby offered, shifting into his Dino mode. Your leg seems mostly healed, but there's no point in putting undue strain on it just for travel. Why thank you, Coby, Robin said, crossing her arms and activating her powers. Bloomed hands sprouted from Coby's torso, undoing the rinky-dink May die carrier that held the dragon egg. I shall hold this while we travel. We'd rather avoid the off chance something unfortunate befalls little Ace-chan's souvenir, yes? I suppose, Coby responded. The archaeologist settled herself on Coby's neck side saddle before the group set off down the corridor. They rounded a corner, Coby nearly bowling over a man in a yellow hazmat suit who just managed to jump out of the way. Wah! Hey! He yelled behind them. Get back to your cell. Green star. Devil, Usopp countered, his floral projectile sprouting upon contact with the floor, growing upward to swallow the manhole despite Usopp having to throw it manually rather than from his missing kabuto. That doesn't make any sense, Coby commented as they left the plant behind. How'd you do that, Usopp? What's not to understand? The sniper questioned. Plants grow from seeds. That's just how it works. Yeah, when they have soil to work with, the dinosaur countered. You just threw that into a steel hallway. There should have been nothing for it to grow from. But these are seeds from the Boine Isles, Usopp pointed out. They tend to have rapid growth to coincide with their short lifespans. That doesn't help. Why are you complaining? Mary asked. It worked and that was a bad guy. But Coby sighed, shaking his head. Whatever. Let's just find the others. I'll take care to avoid any other guys from here on out, I guess. The group twisted and turned through the hallways, barely avoiding more than half a dozen other yellow-clad minions before they reached a large, open space. Machines of various make and look lined the room, though none of them seemed to be active. Still, Coby frowned, something not feeling right about the place. Guys, I don't like this, he muttered, his head on a swivel as he kept his eyes peeled for anything that didn't seem to belong. Something reeks of abnormality. Is it us? Mary asked. I think it's us. How do you know what abnormality smells like? Usopp wondered at the same time. I don't literally smell it, smartasses, Coby huffed. Something just doesn't feel right. It's like they were corralling us in this direction. The inhabitants of this location do seem the type to stock their habitat with a plethora of nasty surprises, Robin commented. Oh, I do hope we don't encounter a hideous, ravenous monster that overpowers and devours us one by one, leaving us little more than chunks, memories, and 4 whispered screams on the chilling wind, digested and passed on without a secondary thought. Would you stop interrogating? Usopp demanded, a shiver not caused by the cold running down his spine. Honestly, what's with you and morbid humor about us getting eaten in Terabang? Are you into that crap? Poor choice of words, Uncle Usopp, Mary laughed. I don't think now is the time for this conversation, Coby muttered, the lights starting to dim. I have a bad feeling they know exactly where we are right now. GRRROOWWWHH, something screeched. A bang coming from somewhere deeper in the room. Other hissing sounds came from other directions ahead, prompting Coby to spin. He was too late, however, the door they'd come through closing with a hiss. Correction, the zone muttered. They know exactly where we are right now.
Something large and green started to slither over the machines, the sounds of other creatures slinking through the machinery out of sight coming from either side. The creature they could see lowered its head, another dragon staring at them through small eyes. It was an acidic green with spots of a darker hue, small wings tucked against its back as too long, spindly arms carried its thin body over the metal in an almost snake-like movement. A Drago snake? Mary wondered as a forked tongue licked the creature's lips. No, wait. It's got appendages, so it can't be a snake. Who cares in Terabang? Usopp screamed, grabbing at his hair. We're dead. I knew it. This is it. Usopp, Coby muttered as he took a single step away from the reptilian monster. I don't mean to scare you, but you aren't going to want to look to either side. As one does when told not to do something, Usopp instantly turned his gaze away from the dragon and immediately regretted it.
To the right prowled a cat that was blue in color with dark stripes leading from the top of its back to all 6 of its legs. Its face was pulled back into a snarl, 2 fangs longer than the rest of its sharp teeth extending downward from its mouth. Unlike the last incarnation of this creature the pirates had seen, which only had 2 tails, this one had 4, each one lashing through the air like a whip. To make matters worse, it stood at a full 9 feet in height.
On the other side moved an animal that looked closer to its base, though the hopping, purple deer looked like it should have been top-heavy considering how massive its antlers were. Steam puffed from its every breath, its body rippling with enough muscle to counteract its horns as it glared at the pirates, bouncing.
Usopp, Coby muttered. You looked, didn't you? Yeah, is it just me, or is that cat familiar? And no, it's not just you, the other male replied. I think we aren't the only ones who made a pit stop at Maryville. You mean Shiki's floating islands? Mary blinked. Oh hell yes? You mean, hell no, Usopp corrected, his aversion to cursing lost in the situation. Come on, Uncle Usopp. Mary laughed. We beat monsters like these things 2 years ago. Mary, do recall we are currently trapezing through a laboratory, Robin pointed out. In Maryville, Shiki was content to let natural selection do its bloody work. Here, I imagine select genes have been combined and mutated under careful observation. And maybe the fact that we don't have our weapons is, bad interrobang, Usopp added. I'm lucky enough to still have my seeds, but I don't think they'll help too much with these. That does put a bit of a damper on things, I'll admit, Mary admitted. Well, who wants what? Obviously we need to run. We can't run, Coby pointed out. They shut the door on us. They purposely locked us in here. Then I hope they don't care about these animals or the machines, Mary grinned, punching her palm as she glared at the blue, 6-legged sabertooth. I'm feeling hungry and destructive. So, like Captain Luffy? Like Captain Luffy, yes, despite being vegetarian. What a coincidence, Coby grinned, growing into his armor mode as he stared down the bouncy deer. He popped his knuckles. After our imprisonment, I'm starting to feel the same way. This is a bad idea, Usopp reiterated, he and Robin watching the dragon as it eyed the egg in the woman's grip. It hissed something the pirates suspected was a warning. We can't fight a mutant dragon, tiger, and deer unarmed. Then I supposed it is a good thing I can bloom more than each of our standard 2, Robin joked. That's not what I meant and you know it, unamused by their back and forth. Each of the creatures released their battle cries and charge. Master. A deep, pained voice hissed, fingers trying and failing to drag themselves across the floor. The man, or the pile of parts that used to be a man, shifted, but his momentum came to naught, his own piece's movements counteracting each other. Master, please, betrayal, betrayal. No one answered the voice's cries, hidden away as they were. A foot, the closest thing to the doorway, tried to smack against the metal in the hope that someone would hear the noise on the other side, but even if there was someone there to hear, the only noise the voice's pieces could make was a dull thump that did precious little to stand of the laboratory's ambient sound. Even then, unknown to the voice, the keypad to the door was broken beyond repair, a single stab of a sword having severed every wire within. No one would come for the voice, so all it could do was agonize over its own powerlessness, a feeling all too familiar. Master, please, hear my voice, betrayal, betrayal from the warlord of the sea. Against all odds, the door started to open, a claw forcing its way into the crack between the doors. Light streamed into the room, green and orange identifying the person to the mass of parts. Monet, you're here. I need you to bring a message to the master, it's law, he's chosen to betray us. Oh, I know, the harpy said, her smile turning cold as frost started to fill the small room. I had a feeling you would eventually.
What are you doing in Terabang? The master doesn't need to hear your report. The frost began to crawl up the fleshy pieces. Be a good popsicle and quiet down now. Good night.
And no. Monet closed the door, leaving the room in cold and darkness, her own betrayal set in motion. That sliver of light was the last thing Brownbeard ever saw before darkness claimed him forever. Unamused by their back and forth, each of the creatures released their battle cries and charge. Evasive maneuvers, Mary called, using moonwalk to shoot straight upward. Coby launched himself to the left, toward the bouncy deer, while Usopp grabbed Robin and ran backwards, leaving the space where the tiger and dragon landed vacant of all pirates. The dragon let out a screech and charged after them, but the cat leapt away, dodging Mary's attack as her iron body kick cracked the floor. Pardon my theory, Robin began over Usopp screaming, the green lizard slithering over and around the machinery in their wake. I believe this dragon may, quite possibly, be male and the dragon we slayed before may. Assuming we might not have possessed all the information at the time. Not have been in the family schemata. At least, not completely. Robin, I'm hoping you aren't saying you were wrong, the sniper yelped. I really don't like the implications of you being wrong. Well, I would not use the term wrong, the woman replied. I am never wrong. Perhaps a synonym with a slightly different connotation. Inaccurate, mayhap. Or possibly misinformed. Yes, one cannot be completely wrong if they lack all pertinent information about the topic in question. Get to the point, Usopp yelled. The dragon chasing them hissed. A spray of green liquid launching from some point on its neck. The substance splashed against one of the machines, the metal there darkening, smoking, and corroding in a matter of seconds. The smoke filled the air around with a horrid, sulfuric stench that threatened to make Usopp gag. Well, assuming I was, indeed, theorizing with incomplete and now outdated information, then there is a somewhat large possibility that, assuming those rare cases did, indeed, line up, the red dragon had a mate. If that statement is true, then all signs would point to. As finding it, yeah, I picked up on that. Oh shit, a white missile crashed into the side of the dragon's face, the lizard reeling as its forward momentum was forcefully shifted. Coby unrolled, skidding to a stop as he glared at the deer that had just managed to kick him. A pair of hoofprints stained his coat, the zone trying to get his breath back after having his lungs forcefully compressed. He jumped, avoiding the acid the dragon spat at him. Moonwalk carried Coby up into the air, a frown on his face as he and the deer glared at each other. The ungulate hopped, its springy hooves compressing and expanding with each bounce before it brayed and launched toward the Triceratops human.
Coby spun, shifting into his drill mode for the flat tail it provided. Said tail smacked into the deer's face, redirecting it to the side as the animal's antlers came within inches of Coby's eyes, impacting his horns with enough force to send both zone and mutation spinning. The pirate of the two was, however, very accustomed to the sensation, Coby recovering quickly to kick forward with moonwalk. 3-point style, Triassic twist. The deer brayed, interposing its horns between its body and Coby's horns. Bone ground against bone until something caught, a length of the antlers slipping into the space between Coby's horns. The mutant took advantage of this, twisting its head to stop Coby's momentum before rearing back on its hind legs.
It kicked, Coby just barely smacking it off course with his flat tail. His neck strained, feeling his horns hooked on the deer's antlers as it cried out its anger. The pirate reached upward, taking hold of bone before, with a growl with a sharp yank, the antler caught in his horns broke off with a loud snap. The deer screamed in pain, Coby falling to land on his feet as the now separate horn crashed to the ground. The deer swung its head, its antlers now unbalanced, its wild flailing so random that even Coby's outstanding observation hockey could not get a read on it. The beast swung its antlers downward, Coby reaching up to catch them only for the calcareous growths to pull him up off the ground. The deer kicked, the bounciness of the creature's body and hooves rocketing Coby backward like it had before. The armor of the zone's armor mode grew over his body before he hit another machine, indenting the metal with a loud bang. Damn, I wish I had my swords, he muttered, pulling himself out of the warped metal. The deer bounced from side to side with its tilted, off-balance head, building speed before shooting forward. Coby curled in on himself, protecting his vitals with his bone plating before the mutant plowed into him. The machine gave a groan before its parts collapsed under the strain, Coby's body leaving a hole behind. Part of this machine, a massive rod of steel, shifted and fell. But this was little more than an inconvenience to the Straw Hat's first Klabouterman. She reached upward, catching the rod with Zoro and Luffy's strength before swinging it downward. The blue tiger growled at her, jumping to the side to avoid the improvised weapon. Said weapon cracked the floor, its impact seeming to be the signal for the beast to charge. Iron body, Mary yelled, crossing her arms to protect her neck. The tiger's claws tore lines into the sleeves of her coat and its fangs drew essence from her hairline. But the white-haired fairy stood her ground. The massive feline roared in her face, saliva getting carried along its breath. Two can play that game, the girl grinned, throwing the cat's claws away with a push of her arms. The tiger's eyes widened as she opened its underbelly, the Klabouterman jumping forward with a devastating roundhouse. Black sail style, under galley shoot. The tiger hacked up red as Mary's foot compressed its gut with her kick. Physics caught up a moment later, launching the tiger backward. It flipped several times before landing on its feet, claws digging into the metal as it growled down at Mary from the top of another inactive piece of machinery. Mary kicked upward, rising with moonwalk to be eye level with the mutant. Its yellow eyes stared into hers without any fear, its lips pulled back in a snarl that showed off its many sharp teeth. You're big and tough, I'll give you that, Mary said, popping her knuckles, but I doubt you're as fast, shave. Mary vanished, only a blur of her corporeal form indicating where she'd been. The cat tried to follow her with its eyes while still keeping its balance on the machine. Its four tails whipped through the air in an attempt to help with the latter task. Mary came to a stop above, not giving the creature a second to breath as she yelled, "Cross-sailed typhoon." X-shaped tempest kicks rained down toward the tiger, a satisfied smile coming to Mary's face. And the cat vanished. What? The Klabouterman gasped, her kicks carving numerous gouges into the inactive machine. A hint of blue appeared in the corner of her vision, Mary's body turning too slowly as her mind comprehended what happened. The tiger roared, batting her in the side of the head with its paw with enough force to send Mary across the room. bouncing off metal the whole way. She hit the ground with a roll, forcing herself to spin so she could keep the cat in her line of sight to confirm what she thought she'd seen.
Indeed, as she had feared, the tiger jumped once off the air itself before turning into a blur and reappearing behind her. Mary ducked the coming swipe, her hands shooting upward to snag the paw before twisting the cat over her shoulder. Its back hit the floor hard, Mary using the time she had gained to put some distance between her and feline.
"Be careful," she yelled, being sure to pitch her voice so her companions could hear her. "These things are crazy smart. The cat just learned to moonwalk and shave by watching me." Mary didn't have time to listen for any response she might have gotten, the mutant tiger pouncing on her once more. "Did you just hear that?" Robin questioned, swinging herself from machine to machine with her bloomed arms. Another groan from her side to safely hold the egg against her stomach. "Hear what interrobang," Usopp cried, throwing 4 seeds Behin could sprout, the sniper trying to block the path of the dragon chasing them. This attempt had little success, the dragon plowing through the bamboo spikes, ripping through the trampolia with its teeth, and using its acid to eat through the skullbomb grass and the giant fly traps. The sound of our impending doom in Terabang. "Well, possibly," the archaeologist conceded. "Specifically, I meant Mary's warning about these creatures possessing the necessary intelligence to enact visual mimicry on techniques as advanced as." "Why is everything out of your mouth fancy and negative in Terabang?" Usopp interrupted, throwing more skullbomb grass seeds at the dragon. It hissed as the purple-pink cloud of smoke engulfed it, but Usopp was sure it was too sturdy for something as simple as that to do the monster in. "You got brains. Think of a way for us to get out of this with our lives." Clearly, the answer to that is to defeat the dragon. "Robin, I swear to Goda." Wind beat against the pirates' backs, both looking back to see the dragon's wings flapping. It lifted from its perch, taking to the air to fly over Usopp's green stars. "Devils. It's flying, Robin, it's flying."
Quarenta fleur, hold, Robin called, crossing her arms as she focused her powers. Arms bloomed along the lizard's back, her many hands grabbing at the base and patagium of the wings. She pulled, her arms trying to contract in an effort to stymie the dragon's flight.
It, however, did not seem to care about her attempts, the green beast rising higher into the air despite the increased resistance. Its eyes narrowed, staring down at Robin. More specifically, it was staring at her torso where she held the egg Luffy had chosen to take with them. "Robin, give the dragon the egg," Usopp yelled. "Why would I perform such an act?" the woman questioned. "That's what the dragon wants. If we give it the egg, it should leave us alone." Perhaps, Robin conceded, but Captain chose this egg to be Little Ace Chan's souvenir and I refuse to relinquish it. "Do you want to be the one to tell the captain or his son that we lost his present?" She grinned. "Or would you rather be able to say with confidence that you defeated 2 dragons to protect it?" Time slowed in Usopp's mind's eye, a little version of Ace appearing before him with the egg in hand. Imaginary Ace looked up with a smile.
"Thanks, Uncle Usopp. You're the best." A fire lit itself in the sniper's eye, the young man turning to fully face their scaly adversary. He pulled out a seed for his bamboo javelin attack and threw it on the ground, a veritable forest of the stuff growing around him. He reached out, breaking off one of the shoots at its base. Like a monkey, Usopp climbed the tallest of the lot to stare down the beast.
Usopp yelled, "will be the favorite, uncle." With his last word, Usopp threw the bamboo javelin, its sharp tip stabbing into the dragon's flank. It roared in pain, green blood oozing from within. "An excellent throw, Usopp," Robin complimented, the man rubbing his nose with a thumb as he basked in the praise. "Would you, perchance, be able to accomplish that feat a second time?" "Ah, why?" The sniper blinked. "Well," Robin gestured for Usopp to turn around, the man feeling a sudden wave of heat over his neck. A drop of sweat rolled down into the collar of his coat. He turned, his body nearly creaking with reluctance. The dragon's large eyes, each the side of his head, stood millimeters from the end of Usopp's nose. The human blinked as it breathed on him, his eyes shifting to the wound he'd put in the lizard's side. In an instant, all the bravado and confidence Usopp's vision had given him drained away. And nice dragon," he tried, placing a hand on its snout. It shook him off, eyes narrowing. Hey, Robin. Do you think if I say I'm sorry, do you think it'll go away?" A rumble came from the dragon's throat, its acid tube shifting. A scream Coby distinctly recognized as Usopp's "I think I'm going to die, please somebody help me, save me something please" scream reached him from across the room. But the zone was in no position to help the sniper of the crew as he tried to match the bouncy deer in speed. The purple mutant was like a sea train, the more time it was given to get going, the harder it was to stop. Giving it time was a mistake Coby had made, the deer now little more than a purple blur as it bounced around the room, each of its jumps leaving a new dent in the metal and machinery around them. Coby moved in his slasher mode, stopping only long enough to kick off the air when needed as he continued to shave from place to place in his perilous game of tag with the animal. Had he had his swords, the Rosset was certain the fight would have been over by this point, but he did not, and as such he and the mutant were locked in their battle of speed. Needle twister. The young man yelled, spinning into a veritable tornado of claws and stabby growths. The deer slammed into him, antlers first, calcareous constructs grinding against each other. The creature threw its head upward, tossing Coby into the air. But that did not bother him. The pirate spun, kicking off the air to launch downward. The deer moved to interpose its antlers once more. Coby caught them, landing within the mutant's impressive rack, but that had been his plan. The wicked-tailed Coby's slasher mode possessed whipped downward, its barb cutting across the deer's snout. Said deer roared in pain, shaking its head in an attempt to dislodge the pirate. Coby held on, his tail cutting 2 more gashes into the beast's face and neck. Finding the situation not amicable, the deer brayed and started to run, lowering its head on a collision course with a sturdy-looking press. "Oh no you don't," Coby muttered. Dino mode. In his place within the deer's antlers, Coby grew into the heaviest of his transformations. Several of said antlers cracked as he grew, the animal all but screaming in panic as its velvet stretched and broke and the pain registered. It dug its hooves into the floor, stopping its momentum as Coby maintained his. He landed on all fours, a full triceratops now staring down the ungulate with a considerably more bare than before head of horn. It snorted out a puff of steam. "I'll take that as an insult." The deer snorted again, shaking its head. Its antlers rattled before, as one. The pair detached from the creature's head and crashed to the ground. Coby stared, aghast, as the nubs left behind started to grow before his eyes, spiraling upward. "No you don't, Cretaceous charge," Coby yelled, charging forward with his horns pointed toward the deer's throat. He jumped, far faster now without the extra condensed weight. Sensing the creature's intentions with his observation, Coby abandoned his charge and pushed into a roll to the side, shifting first into his human mode to avoid the beast's spindly legs before once more taking on his slasher mode. The deer vanished as quickly as before, but the pirate had a feeling that would be the case.
He cast his gaze about, looking for something in the environment that could give him an edge. He could feel his crewmates nearby, each struggling with their own foes. Usopp was still alive, by the way, despite his previous scream. Barely avoiding another ambush, Coby started making his way toward the others, hoping that to interfere in their fights would inhibit his opponent long enough to land a decisive blow or to do the same to one of the others.
Taking another turn, a dent appearing where he'd been standing not a moment before but not of his own doing, Coby found some evidence of the other fights. A grove of bamboo shoots stood atop its own web of roots, half of which were snapped off or melted by some means. The other half, however, still stood, their pointed tips standing toward the ceiling. "Come on, you venison balloon," Coby taunted, taking to the air. The deer may not have been able to speak common, but it could understand the inflection in his voice as mocking, the creature roaring a response. Coby pushed himself to his limits, moving and walked to treat the deer like a matador with a bull. It seemed to grow angrier with each miss, the steam in its breath coming denser and heavier each time it paused long enough to appear visually. All according to plan. "Come get me," Coby shouted from the ceiling. From his placement, using moonwalk to stay aloft so high, he could see the whole room. The tiger Mary was fighting looked worse for wear while the dragon had a gash leaking green blood in its side. Coby had as much as a second to take in the scenery before the deer was heading his way, its newly grown antlers primed to skewer him. Coby kicked downward. The deer, he had learned, could only move in straight lines until it had something to kick off of, unlike Coby who could change direction in midair thanks to moonwalk. As he expected it to, the deer kicked off the ceiling, chasing him directly into the Usopp's bamboo javelin. Coby kicked to the side at the last possible moment, crashing painfully to the floor and rolling away his momentum. He felt rather than saw the deer's eyes widen, its spindly legs flailing but unable to do anything as its gravity increased speed pulled it down onto the sharp flora. There was a panicked bray followed by a sickening squelch. "OWW," the zone groaned, rolling his shoulder until he felt it pop back into its correct place. He refused to turn and see the final result of his plan. He would deal with the resulting emotions of that later when his crewmates were no longer in direct danger. Instead, he shifted into his Dino mode again and tromped toward the light in his hockey that he knew to be Mary. "So," Amy began, staring down at the sleeping children wrapped in chains against the hull of the Thousand Sunny, "what now?" "All we can do is wait," Frankie shrugged. "We've got our super medics on the job, so we can focus on putting the rest of Sunny back together. That said, it's gonna be super tough without the giant kids helping out. It takes a lot out of me, but I can lighten the atom wood as we just saw," the blonde commented. "You can lighten the wood in Terabang," the Marines yelled, eyes goggling at the woman. "Why didn't you do that sooner in Terabang?" "I can't do it for very long," she explained with a wave. "That wood is probably the largest and densest thing I've ever used my powers on. It'd be better if we could get the remaining pieces as close as possible before I need to lighten them." "I'm sure the Marine bros and I can handle that," the cyborg grinned. "At least, if they aren't super wimps." "Wimps in Terabang," the men demanded, Frankie playing them like one-stringed guitar. "There's no way some ship parts will get the better of us." "Brooke," Strike up a super tune, it's back to work for us. Within the sunny, away from the cold, the only present straw hats with any formal training of medical chemicals stood side by side before Chopper's desk. His damp notes spread out alongside the materials he considered pertinent to their current problem. Billy Zoro and Grace Billy stood on the opposite side of the room, the latter trying to focus on learning to use his temporary body's powers while the former watched the whole thing with what amounted to a frown on his beak. "We need to find a way to purge the NHC-10 from their systems," Chopper commented, frowning to himself as he dripped several drops of some green substance into a test tube of blood. He gave it a shake, the blood turning a beautiful sapphire color. This level of concentration would usually be deadly to even an adult. Grace leaned over, one hand rubbing her chin as her lone eyes studied the vial. "That color is gonna be a bitch to recreate," she muttered. "Wah, I agree with Zoro," Billy commented. "Can we focus your chemical knowledge and not your artistic obsession, please?" "Right, sorry." Grace chuckled. "Colors that vibrant are hard to come by, you know. I can tell that's pure sapphire even with this one bad eye." "Wah, no, Billy commented. "I know what she's saying. Her eyes have a lot more color range than mine do. It is a pretty color. Like, really pretty." "Can we get back to the drugs, please?" Chopper insisted.
"Right," Grace responded with a shake of their head. "If I remember correctly, the problem with NHC-10 isn't necessarily its addictiveness but its symptoms of withdrawal, yeah."
"That's right," the small doctor nodded. "They can include hallucinations, migraines, increased aggression, seizures, insomnia, lack of hunger, and eventually death if not managed. And the symptoms onset very quickly," Grace recalled. "Usually around 24 hours since the last dose, the former 3 usually coming ahead of the latter. That's what makes using it as a medicine so difficult and, in most cases, experimental," Chopper agreed, studying the sample again. "These levels, the only way they're possible would be if they started with minuscule amounts and slowly worked their way up, allowing their bodies to adapt day by day. Using imidazine hydrocarbide as a growth stimulant," the chemist in a swordsman's body muttered with a shake of her borrowed head. "It's a crazy experiment that clearly has some chance of success. But why are only some of the children giant and not all of them? Most of the kids arrived here on the same ship. Does it have to do with age?" "I don't think so," the reindeer said. "While Sind is one of the oldest children, Mocha is one of the youngest, yet they are the 2 children whose bodies took to the gigantification the most easily. I don't think it has to do with age, but with their lineage factors." "Wah? Never heard of it," Billy agreed. "I've heard of it, but I'm spotty on the details," Grace commented. "I know it's a new discovery in the last 20 years or so that has to do with ancestry. It's a science pioneered by the great Dr. Vegapunk," Chopper explained. "It's still technically a theory, even if biologists around the world are finding more and more evidence to its existence. Point it, the lineage factor is why you probably look like your parents."
Chopper looked around the room only to slowly deflate. Present were himself, Zoro, Billy, and Grace, all orphans in one way or another. Billy's parents were an unknown since he'd been hatched in a lab by Dr. Indigo and his assistants in their IQ experiments, but he'd never met them.
Actually, most of the crew were orphans by that logic, the only possible exception being Brook, who himself did not discuss his past before meeting those who would become his family in the Rumbar Pirates, and Ace, who was born into the pirate's life.
That held interesting implications for a socio-philosophic study that could revolutionize humanity's understanding of logical rationalization. After all, Vivi, the one potential crewmate who had a serious chance of joining the crew but still had one parent that valued and raised her, did not join. She was also a princess, so she might also be an outlier.
Anyway, Chopper coughed, shaking the thoughts away for later.
"As I was saying, accepted logic tells us that certain traits like hair color, eye color, height, and other such factors are directly received from our ancestry.
This is a known fact that people have been able to see and record for hundreds of thousands of years. Lineage theory, however, suggests that these things are recorded in our very beings. Not just the information of our fraternal parents, but our grandparents and great-grandparents throughout the generations. Not just physical characteristics but certain muscle memories or generalized philosophies." "Wah?" Zoro prompted. "I don't understand the question." "I think what Zoro's asking," Grace commented, "is how the lineage factor plays a part in why only some of the children have gigantified when they all have the same levels of NHC-10. Only, not in so many words." Well, the doctor considered his words, wondering how best to explain. "Think about it like this. Giants are giants because their ancestors were giants. And we learned at Fishman Island that 2 merfolk can have any kind of child as long as one of their ancestors was Thamerfolk. And we can look at examples like Whitebeard and most of the admirals that show that average humans have the capacity to grow to heights beyond that of the average. Therefore, considering nothing is known about the parents of these individuals, we can assume they were altogether average until their progeny reached certain criteria." Chopper was building himself into an excited rant, the rest of his crewmates present trying to follow along with only Grace managing, if barely. These giant humans, therefore, must have some key in their lineage factors that allow for this. It cannot be a capacity for Haki, else Garp would meet the same criteria. His voice dropped into a mutter, the doctor grabbing a pen and paper to jot down his thoughts in his illegible to anyone else shorthand.
Although, this may be an aspect for conquerors and also possible propensities for certain other Hakis.
They do say one needs to be born with conquerors, so could it be that the lineage factors must be present in an individual for them to achieve such skill? Both Luffy and his grandfather possess the power, and considering his role and notoriety we can assume Luffy's father is the same way. Should Ace develop the so-called King's Color himself, that would make at least 4 generations in a row, each with radically different upbringings and ideals for the most part but the same lineage factors. Earth to Chopper, Z Grace called, snapping her fingers before the reindeer's eyes. Chopper blinked, recoiling a little in surprise as he was pulled from his thoughts. Wah! You were muttering about hockey, but can we get back to the children? Ah, yes, the doctor blinked, setting his new notes to the side. As I was saying before, it seems some individuals have the ability to reach literal heights taller than others even if they are still human. Individuals such as Whitebeard, Akainu. Real name Sakazuki, Z Grace put in, Iokiji. Real name Kuzan, Kazaru, real name Borsalino. Bartholomew Kuma, and possibly others not mentioned have essentially grown to match their power relative to others. However, individuals such as Garp, former Fleet Admiral Sengoku, Monkey D-Dragon, Dracule Mahawk, and others achieve this same level of power yet do not reach the same physical height. If there is something required on one's lineage factor, then perhaps the deciding requirement is the presence of a true giant in one's ancestry. Neat, G. Billy commented, but how does that help get the Imito stuff out of the kids? It doesn't, Chopper conceded. But if these theories are correct, they provide a how do I send Mocha, and the others are so large and may be reverse engineered to help shrink them once more. Fair point, Z Grace commented. We need to make sure they live that long first. We can't just keep having Brooke and Sunny put them to sleep every time they wake up until the withdrawal runs its course. They'll get so well rested at some point that it just won't work. If we could find something that would ease the cravings they feel without the dependence they feel for the NHC-10, that would be ideal, but it's hard enough to synthesize NHC-10. Much less anything similar. We'd at least have a starting point if I had my powers, Z Grace frowned, slamming a fist against the wall. Damn law. Zoro, if you hadn't. But he and you both did, G Billy interrupted. I don't have the know-how to use your powers, Grace, but I know some scientists can map out chemicals and stuff. We can at least start there. We could make some theoretical Bohr models, Chopper agreed. It does give us something to work with and we might find something in my medical stores that could act as a stopgap. Sounds like a plan, Z Grace nodded. Pass me a pad and I'll get started on the depressants I know how to make before moving on to the theoretical. I have arrived, Master, Velo said, strutting through the door as if the laboratory were her domain. Caesar did not turn to face her, busy as he was shaking a test tube of different gases, but Law looked up from his place on the couch. Ace stayed silent in her hand, the boy looking forlorn as the door closed behind them. Kaku and the samurai were not difficult to shake. This building is quite the dreadful maze if one is not familiar with it. Yes, so I am aware, the horned man replied, the chemicals in the test tube turning to a misty purple that was almost black. Any other news? I have brought the boy. Caesar turned, setting the vial down as he got his first in-person look at Monkey D. Ace. Dreadful vocabulary he has, by the way.
Yes, well, such a thing can be re-educated, the man grinned. His billowing coat shifted, the gases that made up its structure moving forward to lift the child from Bello's hold. Caesar turned him this way and that, noting the hard frown on the boy's face. What is your name, little one?
Ace did not reply, his lips pursing. I asked what your name is, Caesar tried again. He knew how some children were. He'd had to interact with plenty of the little cretins for his gigantification tests, after all. If you do not tell me your name, then I will assume you don't have one and give you one of my own.
The child remained stubbornly silent. Very well, the scientist muttered, pushing out a dramatic sigh. What name shall work for you? Albert. No, you do not look like an Albert. Darwin, perhaps. Yes, Darwin is a good name. Ah, Faraday rolls of the tongue, doesn't it? Newton is another strong contender. No, you don't like any of those. Then perhaps something more ostentatious. Galileo. Or Copernicus. Yes, I like the name Copernicus.
I'm Ace, the boy said, breaking his silence. Mommy named me Ace after Daddy's brother. I don't like copper, what's it? Ace, an excellent name, Caesar grinned. I will make you the foremost expert of many things, greater than even that big-headed Vegapunk. With you, I'll show him and the rest of the world what amazing things science can do with the right education. Shilololo, shilololo. Ace reached out, his little finger jabbing into Caesar's eye. The man cried out in unexpected pain, dropping the boy. Ace staggered as he hit the floor, falling over but using the force to roll in what he thought was a very cool, sly, and effective manner. even if it only carried him 1.5 tiles to the side. Law swallowed a chuckle, refusing to let any emotion show as Caesar clutched at his face. Coming out of his very impressive role, Ace climbed to his feet and began running toward the door. Velo intercepted him, snatching the boy up with her claws once more. "Now that's no way to treat your new caretaker," Velo said. "If you continue with these dreadful manners of yours, boy, I don't think any of us could promise your safety." "I don't need Sophie tea," the young pirate yelled. "My family's gonna come, and when they do, they'll kick all your asses." "I have warned you about using such dreadful language," Velo growled, her eyes spinning to glow red once more. "You will cease your meaningless struggles this instant." "No, Dr. Velo," Caesar muttered, blinking away the pain in his eye. He may be a logia, but the ability to shift unconsciously comes with training, something the man considered beneath him when he had so many minions to do any fighting for him. Children are entitled to a little rambunctiousness once in a while. Besides, he had yet to learn how wonderful it is to live here. "I don't wanna," Ace yelled. Now, child," Caesar cooed, gathering a ball of aerosol Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol in his hand. It was a swirling, smoky vapor that Velo recognized instantly, the woman bringing up her free hand to cover her nose with her sleeve. "I promise you, living here will make you." He opened his hand, the smoke rising into Ace's face. The boy coughed, an overwhelming rush of euphoria slowly overpowering the sudden burning in his throat. "Feel very good, shalalololo, fuck." Nami's scream caused Sanji to freeze, his head spinning to try to find the woman across the room. Turning, however, took his attention away from his opponent. Worm took advantage of that, its toxic tongue slithering forward to wrap around the chef's extended leg. The blonde grit his teeth as the toxins burned through his pants leg, redness bubbling over his skin. He bit out his own curse as the muscles dragged him off his feet, holding him aloft upside down. Seeing what was to come, Sanji focused, a miasma of black smoke covering his chest and stomach. "Aatata," Worm laughed, raising its claws before swinging them down. Sanji coughed, the attack slamming into his torso as he refused to block with his arms lest something happened to them. The force of the attack launched him from the tongue's grip, the blonde bouncing across the floor before rolling to a stop. "OWW," the man groaned, rolling onto his stomach to push himself onto his hands and knees. He coughed, a few drops of red falling to the concrete below. A shadow fell over the blonde, Merm giggling to itself as the once human face looked down on him. "Atatata." Sanji twisted, rolling himself over to avoid the claws that carved lines into the floor. He spun into a handstand, his legs kicking into the mania's closest arm one after the other. It hissed but never lost its disposition, as if the pain were merely an afterthought to something else. Sanji didn't take the time to think about it. He jumped backward the way the pair had come, putting his back to the wall so he could observe Merm and the rest of the room in one go. The arena was now more of a disaster than it had been when they entered, but that really wasn't saying much. All of the manias were still standing, though the giraffepede did have a long, shallow cut along its side that was dripping red. As Sanji watched, Grassland swiped its horned trunk through the blood and flicked it at Tashigi. She raised her arms, protecting her eyes and glasses, but the rest of the crimson liquid dotted her outfit. Something akin to black lightning sparked from Jin's fight with Ocean. The Logia's hockey-covered wings and arms deadlocked with the aquatic-based amalgamation's similarly covered tentacles. Jin would break the stalemate periodically, charging the creature in an attempt to get his hands on it for a decisive attack that could get through the beast's hockey, but it would snap at him with its beak whenever he got closer. Smoker seemed to be faring the best out of the group between his Jute and Logia powers, but Desert had apparently taken note of the Marine's maneuverability and was playing a long game, charging the white-haired man while using its scorpion claws on its back as protection. Desert was getting faster the longer their battle lasted, so it was only a matter of time before Smoker missed something vital and ended up losing something vital as a result. Finally, and most importantly to Sanji, Nami's clean attack was a blur in her hands, the young mother's arms lined with inflamed burns from insects' poison powder. The floor around them was covered in the dust-like toxin, coating it orange while also preventing Nami from building any large wind attacks lest she kick it up and hurt herself more. Insect, however, was not without injury. One of its wings had a tear in it and a gash along its stinger dripped blood, but the creature's bemandibled smile did not waver. Rather, none of the manias with anything like conventional lips held anything less than a smirk. "You're wasting my time," Nami scowled, another airwall smacking away a couple of insects' grasping hands. The woman spun, a yellow light forming at the end of her backup weapon, though not as quickly as it would with her newer one. "Too bad for you. I haven't been idle. Little bugs are advised to be careful, even inside, lest they find a shocking surprise." Thunderbolt tempo. Lightning lit the room as it came down at the navigator's beckoning, striking the amalgamation in the back. Insect screeched as the electricity pulsed through its body, its wings going limp as it crashed to the floor, its limbs jerked. "Damn," Nami hissed, wanting to put pressure on her chemical burns but unsure if that would only make matters worse. She eyed insect warily, but other than the spasming arms, it wasn't moving. She turned, readying herself to jump into another fight. Ow, stupid bug thing.
She took one step before something went wrong, a soft, firm substance wrapping around her foot. She looked down, finding a white, somewhat shiny substance wrapped around her ankle. Eyes widening, her gaze slowly followed the scarily familiar substance backward to insect. The substance, webbing, as much as Nami really didn't want to accept it, led directly into the creature's mouth.
Ah, shit, Nami cursed, insect climbing up to all eights and yanking its head to the side before cutting the webbing with its mandibles. Donna! Jin yelled at the sound of her screaming. A pulse of lightning shot out from him, forcing Ocean away for a moment. A moment was all the electric logia needed to break away from his fight with the creature, the man turning away from it and pushing off the ground with a single beat of his hockey-coated wings. He shot into the air, interposing himself in the navigator's flight arc. The electric demon snatched the cat burglar out of the air, spinning away her momentum before the pair of them could crash into the wall. Donna, he gasped. Are you alright? More important things to focus on, Jin? Nami pointed her cleam attack at Ocean, a thunderball building at its tip. The amalgamation Jin had been fighting raised its larger pincer, readying to crush both pirates under its blue, exoskeletal bulk. Armament hockey grew over the claw. Thunder Lance. Jin and Nami yelled in tandem, the logia running his powers through the navigator's weapon. The thunderball shifted, forming the shape of an arrowhead just before blasting forward. Ocean moved its hockey-covered claw in an attempt to block the attack only for its bulk to work against it, the thunder lance slipping through its pinchers before stabbing into the beast's shoulder. GRAAOOOWWWW, Ocean yelled, its eyes taking on a maniacal gleam unlike those before. Its stingray tails whipped forward, lashing against Jin's wings. They didn't hurt. The wings were only a construction of his powers and not an actual part of his body, but the force was enough to send the pair skidding backward. Jin's shoes ground into the floor to slow and stop their momentum before he set Nami back on her feet. These things are crazy strong, Donna, the monk commented. We can't keep fighting a long battle while they've got young Master Ace. I know that, Jin, the woman muttered. I noticed they aren't looking at each other. Do you think we can change their focus? Y'all think we could turn them against each other? I think it's worth a try if we want to get out of here quickly. They jumped backward, avoiding the claw that caved the floor where they'd been standing. Jin took aim with his finger pistol, firing several shots at Ocean to keep its attention before he and Nami turned, running toward where Sanji and Merm battled. The Myrmecophagus mix lashed at the chef with its toxic tongues, Sanji avoiding them with liberal use of skywalk while trying to break through the creature's thick plating. The claws didn't help matters, of course, only adding another layer to the mania's defense that Sanji needed to avoid, but it appeared the blonde was slowly overpowering the beast if the numerous cracks were any indication. Sanji, Jin called, pitching his voice to it could be heard over Ocean's roar. Nami glanced back, finding said aquatic amalgamation scrambling toward them on its many tentacle legs like a wobbly freight train. Sanji, go up. The pirate silently did as bid, dodging the claw. Merm swung his way. Jin, holding Nami on his back, joined his friend in the air as they watched chaos unfold below. Ocean tried to stop, its eyes watching the pirates as they got higher, only to not notice it had gotten a giant sloth claw bit into the turtle shell that covered Ocean's torso, carving a gash into the keratin there. Gra-au, Ocean yelled, swinging its smaller pincer at the other mania. It crashed into Merm's armor where one of Sanji's many kicks had cracked it, bits and pieces falling away to reveal taut muscle underneath. Merm let out its own screech. Holy shit, it's workin', Jin muttered as Ocean lashed at Merm with his tails, one of them landing on the newly exposed skin. Forget about them, Nami said. Sanji, go help Smoker. It looks like that mania is starting to learn his patterns. Right away, Nami Swan, the chef answered, kicking off in that direction. I'll join Tashigi against the giraffe thing, Giraffapede, Jin said. I'm not calling it that. Anyway, Jin, can I leave the bug to you now that these two big guys are caught up in their own thing? What am I, a glorified bug light? If this is about the Giraffapede comment, we don't have time, now drop me. Drop you? But Donna. Drop me now, Jin let go, allowing Nami to fall the full 12 feet back to the floor. Merm and Ocean had, luckily, moved away in their new brawl, but it was only after she landed that Jin was subject to why the navigator had been so insistent suddenly. 4 arms and a pair of legs, all slim, pale, and covered in a thin layer of armament hockey, wrapped around the Logia's body. His wings dissipated in a crack of thunder. Oh mother F. Insect flipped backward, driving the man's face into the floor with a kekekekek in a perfect German suplex. That's got to hurt, Nami commented to herself, fashioning a disc of solid air. Ahead of her, Tashigi scowled as each clash of her Shigur and Grassland's horns caused sparks to fly through the air and her shoes to skid backward a few inches. The human of the two was splattered with the former's blood, but not by accident. Marine and Mania stared at each other, the taller with delight dancing in its eyes and the shorter with frustration. Grassland reared back, raising all of its front legs. Look out! Nami threw the circle of solid air, knowing that its stabilization was not so stable considering her lesser claim attacked. It did the job, however, distracting Grassland from the attack it would have performed. The Maniad trumpeted, using one of its elephant ears to smack the oncoming air. Said air expanded as it depressurized, blasting the creature's face with an eye-wateringly cold wind.
Tashigi saw an opportunity, slashing upward with Shigure at the Mania's exposed stomach. A slash of air shot forth, cutting a long gash into the raised chest of the former human.
Breeheheheheh, Grassland bellowed, gravity bringing it down. Its feet hit the concrete with enough force to cause a localized rumble that sent Nami and Tashigi stumbling. Grassland tried to capitalize on that, snapping at them with the hippo mouth on the end of its elephant trunk. Cat burglar, move, Tashigi ordered, dodging to the left. Nami dove the opposite direction, the creature's thick teeth chomping on nothing but air. They say you have a devil fruit power. I'd love to see it. Devil fruit? Nami blinked, barely ducking under the swinging trunk that came for her. She spun her cleam attacked, heat and cool balls floating upward. I don't have a devil fruit. Why would they think that? You don't, Tashigi blinked. But the reports don't know anything about me. Nami formed another solid air dome, but she didn't trust it, throwing herself backward as the giraffepede, loath as she was to call it that even in her head, swung its upper body downward. The navigator's partial dome shattered under the creature's weight, the destabilized air expanding in a blast that blew Nami back another several feet. Grassland stopped, its human eyes furrowing as it began to turn back. Just go down already, Tashigi yelled, Shigure biting deep into the flesh of the Mania's side. It roared, a sound less like a trumpet and more like a lion coming from the mouth on the end of its trunk. Grassland swung around, the Marine having only just enough time to bring up an arm and cover it in a thin layer of armament before impact. The attack still rattled her bones, tearing Tashigi's grip from her sword buried in the creature's side. She flipped, using moonwalk to slow and control her descent before reaching the wall and skidding down to the floor. Grassland's mane of elephant ears flicked, several of its feet stomping the floor as it turned to stare down the now weaponless Marine. Said weapon remained in its thick hide, blood leaking from the wound. To her credit, Tashigi stared back without flinching. Hey! Nami yelled from the creature's other side. Big, long, and ugly. She's not the one you need to worry about. Nami ran toward the beast, forming air steps to rise upward in lieu of not possessing moonwalk. Each step dissipated behind her. But Nami only worried about her goal as the giraffapede's eyes rose to find her. Nami jumped, praying that her gamble here would pay off. Another air wall formed, this one on the end of her cleam attacked and shaped like the blade of a sword. Solid air. Wind shear. The Mania shifted, avoiding the damage the attack would have done to its face. It did not, however, properly estimate the danger in the attack, the wind shear shearing off 2/4 from two of its elephant ears and a whole third ear that had been in between them. Breeheheheh, it cried, tears in its eyes. It turned said eyes on the navigator, its trunk coming up to launch its mouth at the airborne pirate. Nami gasped, interposing her cleam attack between her and the beast. The hippopotamus mouth clamped down on the metal rather than her thin waist like the creature had intended. Grassland pulled, Nami clinging to her weapon for dear life as the Mania took her for an unwanted ride. The world around her blurred from the speed as the creature dragged her through the air like a ribbon on a pole. Ah! The pirate screamed, feeling her fingers start to slip. And then the Mania let go, throwing both Nami and her weapon. She was alone for only a second before smashing into something softer than the wall or floor, a hard, oof. Coming from whatever she'd impacted. They rolled, a mix of tangled limbs, until their momentum was used up. Nami flinched, opening her eyes slowly to find herself on top of Tashigi, their bodies pressed together. Damn it! The Marine gasped, pulling her face upward so she was no longer smothered under the voluptuous pirate. The hell are you eating to get this big? Are you calling me fat? The young mother demanded. That's not what I... Shit! Tashigi wrapped her arms around the pirate and rolled, pulling both women out of the way as the giraffepede slammed its trunk down, cracking the concrete where they'd been. Breehehehe. If I could just get my sword, Tashigi muttered. Could you reach it if I keep its attention on me? Depends. How long can you get me? Depends on how much this can piss it off. Nami raised her cleam attack and stared down the abomination aiming for their demises. I'll show you why they seem to think I have a devil fruit. Thunderbolt tempo. Lightning sparked downward, drawn to the metal sword still lodged in Grassland's side. The Mania let out a sound as the electricity ran through it, but it didn't sound like any sort of pain. Rather, as static sparked around the now somewhat blackened Mania. Its eyes appeared to have crossed and its tongue hung out from the end of its trunk, each breath a puff of superheated steam mixed with smoke. Nami's face crinkled in disgust. Did that thing just moan? I would rather not think about it, Tashigi replied, running forward while the Mania was distracted. She kicked, vanishing with a shave before reappearing on the beast's side. Taking hold of Shiger while thankful she still had her gloves on considering the grip was smoking from the pirate's attack, she leveraged her strength. The sword cut a deep line as she pulled it free, having opted to not take the easy way and thereby leave a smaller wound by pulling it straight as the marine returned to the floor, flicking the crimson liquid from her blade before slowly sheathing it. And, stay fuck down. Damn it, Tashigi turned just in time to see Insect, nearly charred and with its stinger missing, slam into grassland. The electric devil landed beside the marine and Nami, the man panting. His robes were torn, part of one side of the bottom totally ripped away and the hood torn in half. There was a hole in the abdomen where Jin's liver would be, but the only damage to the skin underneath was a small puncture. Insect shifted, moving to get up again. No ya don't, Jin growled, spreading his black wings and taking to the air with a single jump. He reached a hand toward Nami's thundercloud, electricity moving between the clouds. Just die already and accept your fate for turning your fangs against Straw Hat Pirates. Ya won't keep us from young master any longer, Olympus judgment. Light flashed and thunder boomed as several bolts of lightning rained down on the fallen manias. They each let out a screech, but Nami couldn't sense any pain in the sounds even as they faded into nothingness. Jin alighted on the floor beside her, they and the marine taking in the sight of the charred bodies of the two manias. Jin folded his hands and bowed his head. Be freed o your burdens and send and find peace beyond pages o fate. Rest now in your epilogue. So this is the power of the rumble fruit, Tashigi commented, hard eyes turning on the praying Logia. She fingered the handle of her sword, wondering if it would be better if she took out the pirate now before he caused more mayhem. The Navy might never get another chance like this. Slowly, carefully, she started to slide Shiger from its sheath. Don't even think about it, Nami growled, setting a hand on Tashigi's wrist. The pirate's hands were small, soft and dainty without the calluses on the marines. Throwing her off would be child's play for the swordswoman, but there was something in the navigator's eyes that gave the marine pause. If you turn on us now, we'd have to fight you, and we don't have time for that. Almost reluctantly, Tashigi let go of Shiger's handle. Antimatter kick course, Sanji yelled from across the room. White launcher. From a cloud of smoke above fell Commodore Smoker, his Juden boots landing on the upturned, three-humped back of Desert. Sanji grunted from underneath the mania, his kick and Smoker's attack pinning the beast's torso between them. Desert spat spittle and blood from the compression, Sanji vacating his spot as Smoker doubled the force of his attack, driving the mania into the floor. Desert struggled, swinging its head at the end of its snake neck back and forth, but the pincers on its back seemed to refuse to move. One of said pincers was bent the wrong way while the other hung limp. Even the movements of its head seemed sluggish. Stay on top of him, Smoker, Sanji ordered, turning into a spin that lit his leg on fire. With his foot burning, he dashed toward Desert's head. Diable Hambi, flambe shoot. Fire exploded as the chef's kick landed, Desert's head spinning around to slam into the side of its own body. The beast let out a shaky, yaa, ha, and trembled. Smoker shook on its back, hints of its 5 feet slowly appearing to those on the ground. Smoke out, Smoker muttered, waving a hand as smoke rose from his body. It moved at his command, flowing down to the mania's head where it enveloped the thing's face. Desert struggled a little harder, but its movements were in vain as it slowed and eventually stopped altogether. It went limp, Smoker breathing out a final puff from his finished cigars as the fight ended. He looked up, studying where, on the other side of the room, Ocean and Merm bit and scratched at each other still. His eyes narrowed. Let's move to the second floor, Nami suggested, forming an airfloor to stand on and a wind gust to raise her higher. In doing so, she didn't give the others much of a choice but to do as she said. Jin and Sanji followed without pause while Smoker and Tashigi glanced at each other. Loath as they were to take orders from a pirate, they didn't want to leave the trio of straw hats to their own devices considering they'd already lost track of a government traitor, the samurai, and the most dangerous child in the world, according to ex-Fleet Admiral Sengoku. I trust there's something you want to discuss? Smoker questioned as he and Tashigi sat down on the second level. I would think you would be anxious to chase after your son, Cat Burglar. Oh, I really want to, Nami replied, but Kaku's on the trail. He'll at least keep anyone from doing anything if he knows what's good for him and he wants to keep sailing with us. He's an ex-spy, so I doubt we could catch up in time to make a difference there. You make it sound like he's not a member of your crew, Tashigi commented. He's made it abundantly clear that he isn't, Sanji offered, lighting up a cigarette. He held out his lighter, Smoker accepting his silent offer a moment later as the Marine Commodore lit a new couple of cigars with it. Apparently, the only reason he's here is a Navy Klabouterman outed him to the Marines. Otherwise, he'd still be maintaining his cover identity in Water 7. You realize we'll need to report everything you say to our superiors, right? Smoker grunted. Considering they thought I had a devil fruit for the longest time, I'm not that concerned about what your superiors learn. Nami waved off. What they know and what they don't isn't that big a deal to us. Actually, I want to make sure we're on the same page. And which page would that be? Cat Burglar. Page 653, Chapter 44, Book 2. Jin offered. The others turned to stare at him, the monk answering their blinks with one of his own. What? What was that supposed to be? Sanji questioned. Just try and break ice, we've got foreman here, Jin replied with his hands raised in surrender. Can't tell ya where answer came from, but I think it's better in page 394, which would have been my first answer. Just didn't feel right. Moving past that, Nami said, suspecting his answers were from the chaotic other voice in the monk's head. I really don't want to run into any more of Velo's little surprises without talking about them. And, Nami raised a finger before either of the Marines could say anything. I trust your desire to stop Velo's experimentation transcends your dislike of his and ours. Did you all notice anything during your fights?
The sea prism stone in my jute seemed to slow them down, Smoker commented after a moment's hesitation. We suspected as much considering their containment had also been crafted of the same. It didn't stop them completely, but that confirms there's some form of devil fruit at the base of their mutations. What fruit could do that? He gestured at where Ocean and Merm still clawed at each other. I haven't a clue.
They didn't seem to feel pain, Sanji offered, a hand on his chin. No, that's not it. They felt it, but it was like they enjoyed it. Not impossible, Jin commented. Ain't like that's not a thing, ya know? I've got times like that when, he paused, considering how his words sounded. He blushed. Well, when I slip, he decided, tapping his forehead. It's horrible, Tashigi spat. What Velo's done. What she's doing, it's sick. Those manias were people until Velo got hold of them. Humans, Sanji listed. Devil fruits. Moss, ahem, Nami coughed. Sure, Ace wasn't around at the moment, but that was still edging into territory she didn't want to talk about with anyone.
Pain enjoyment, Sanji amended. I've heard about zones getting mutated through awakenings, but nothing like this. Those things were not just one animal. Could she have spliced devil fruits together?
Impossible, Tashigi said. If someone eats more than one devil fruit, they'll die. I don't know what else it could be, then. We'll just have to corner her and force the answer out of her, Nami decided. She said her's of those things out there somewhere. Now, that might not be our problem right now, but it full well could be. We have a bad habit of getting into shit like that because Luffy thinks it's fun. The inflection in Nami's words made it easy for the Marines to pick up her meaning. She sighed with a small smile. I'd hoped he'd moved past that after 2 years, but I guess he wouldn't be Luffy if he did. If you are done ranting, Smoker interjected, I would like to return to pursuing Dr. Velo. Now that we are aware of what she has been doing, I would rather not leave her free any longer than necessary. He reached out a hand, forcing some of his smoke into the crack between the automatic doors. A twitch of his fingers was all it took for the smoke to condense, forcing the two sides open to reveal the hallway beyond. Nami poked her head out, the first image to meet her being 3 separate doors either smashed or cut to pieces before reaching a corner. Well, she commented, we don't need to look hard for our path. Ace's head spun, his eyes all but swirls as so many pretty colors he didn't know the names of danced in his vision, creating myriads of things that melted and morphed into other things. Butterflies turned into bread before dancing a jig as they hopscotched into a toaster. Its tongue dispensed butter as it licked each slice of bread until it bloomed into a happy little tree. The trees then grew meat that the crows could eat to turn them into robot crows. Ace wanted some of that meat so he could be a robot, too, but the mean crows gobbled it all up before flying away. The robotic birds gathered together in the green-orange-blue sky, coalescing into 2 islands that fell one after the other. One landed, shaking the earth, only for the other to land, sending the first back into the air. Little pieces of the islands broke off each time, turning into animals that stampeded into the misty flowers. It was all so pretty that all Ace could do was stare in awe. In the real world, Ace laid on the bar counter, the toddler drooling as the drugs in his system did their hallucinogenic work, giving him visions of the impossible. Law and Velo watched over him, a frown on the former's face as the toddler's drool started to run over the counter and onto the floor. Velo lounged several seats away. Caesar's owned the chemical compounds of the living body, a comprehensive guide to what makes all sentience tick. 6th edition in one sleeve-covered hand and a glass of sherry in the other. Law eyed Caesar, the man standing at his desk and muttering to himself about how to start teaching his newest little minion all the things he wanted him to learn to top even Vegapunk himself. Of course, Caesar wanted to beat Vegapunk and carve his own name into the annals of history, but he had heard that one learns more by teaching others because of the questions they ask. Up to this point, however, the only ones of note around him had been Law, Monet, and Velo. 2 of them were already certified doctors in their own rights and the last was more of a secretary than a lab assistant. They had not come here to study under him and stayed out of this way, as noted by their continued survival. 4 scientists had come to gain his knowledge in the past couple years, but they had become lab rats for him like so many others. They had been too smart to be useful idiots, and too stupid to keep up with him. Perhaps, the gas man considered, that was why he had yet to beat any of the scientists from the now defunct MADS. They were older, had more funding, and had taken on protégés or had children of their own. At least, as far as he knew. Sure, Vegapunk didn't need assistance last he remembered, but he had a head sized to fit his massive ego. Yes, Caesar grinned. If I turned the Bohr models into something like a puzzle, that should make chemical equations a breeze for him. Once he understands the basics there, I can use his assumption-free mind to consider all the formulae that elude me now. He flipped a page of his book. A copy of Compounds Thought Impossible and other such nonsense. One of his failed wannabe disciples had brought the book with him and Caesar had to admit it was an interesting read. He could do without the snarky humor, but the information within was on the level of some of the MADS research he had been witness to some 2 decades ago. The bang of the door opening pulled Caesar from his thoughts, the man snarling at the wall for only a moment before composing himself. "Master," one of the workers called. The pirates somehow subdued the children's hunger pangs. "Have they?" the scientist questioned, turning to face the hazmat-suited satyr. "Well, that is unexpected. How?" "We aren't quite sure," the man answered. "We were hoping you could direct us. They have the children tied up and unconscious by their ship. The Marines seem to be working with them." "I could have told you that last part," Velo commented, not looking up from her book. "Dreadfully unfair to team up on us if you ask me, but their leader is a simple Commodore. While they might look scary, I'd wager the Marines' leaders and several of the pirates are little more than dreadful piles of bloody mush by now. My cute manias should be about done with them." "Leave the kids to me," Law offered, getting up from his seat. "I didn't get them last time because we had other priorities, but pulling them away from the Straw Hats should be easy with my skills." Yes, Caesar waved. "Go on. I've about learned everything I could from this group of children. Get the ones who reacted well to the gigantification serum and leave the rest. We'll send the successful ones to the Hag and get a new badge." Law did not verbally respond, only grabbing his sword and heading to the door. "There are a few other problems," the lackey reported once Law had left. "And those might be?" Caesar prompted. "The samurai and another man are running around the halls," he reported, "and the second captured group has also escaped containment. They're fighting some of Dr. Velo's Merville projects right now." "What in Terabang?" the periwinkle-haired biologist demanded. "Who authorized that?" "Lady Monet, Dr. Velo. She said you'd given permission." "I absolutely did not. Where is that dreadful little harpy?" "I don't know," the man admitted. "I need to go give that dreadful bird brain a piece of my mind. She'll learn her dreadful lesson, putting my gifts to my savior in danger." Velo stomped out the door, unsure of her destination but certain Monet would be at the end of it one way or another. "I need you to send a message for me," Caesar said, redirecting the lackey's attention to him. "Contact the Centaur squad in the Burning Lands. There are a few errands I need them to run to help rid us of our unwanted guests still on the outside. Shalalololo." "It is good to see you again," Monet smiled. The harpy perched upon the top of a cliff. Snow blew hard and fast around her form, pulling at her hair and clothes, but the winged verdette did not seem bothered by the weather. If anything, she seemed much more at ease than she had been within the laboratory. "How long has it been? 14 years? 15, actually," the man on the shore replied. He was tall with short, black hair and a well-groomed beard. Said beard was shaped into lightning designs on each cheek, one of which was covered by a half-eaten steak that seemed stuck to him. He was dressed in white, his long coat trimmed with blue. His eyes were covered by a pair of sunglasses, but it was clear he was making eye contact with the woman. "I must say, a lot has changed, hasn't it?" "Depends on who you ask," Monet grinned, waving one of her seafoam-colored wings. "I hear Sugar is the same as ever." "I was just there, so I can confirm." A grin crossed his face, Monet spreading her wings to alight on the snow before the man. "Since when have you had wings and bird legs, Monet?" "Part switching has been all the rage here since Law arrived," the woman responded. "I kind of got swept up into it, but I quite like the change. I can fly now and sharp." She turned slightly, fanning her tail feathers. "Do you think Sugar will like it?" "I think she'll just be happy to have her sister back." His eyes went to a spot hidden by the snowstorm, the perpetual white hiding the lab. "It seems things are more exciting than usual around here." "Well, we have plenty of guests right now. Besides that Shorty, Velo and Law, we're also playing host to the Straw Hat Pirates and your annoying underlings." Light glinted off the man's sunglasses. "I knew Smoker was getting sent here. But you say Straw Hat is here, too?" "Oh, yes," Monet confirmed. "He's energetic, just like the young master warned us he would be. The scar he received 2 years ago is still prominent. Currently, Straw Hat is separated and contained." "Good. Anything else to report?" "So much, Virgo. Follow me. I'll show you the back entrance. The sooner we finish here, the sooner I get to see my sister again."